in about 10 seconds.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a new academic year. I can hardly believe that it was just a few months ago I greeted you in January at University Day and welcome you to a new decade. Now it is August 2020, and what a year it has been. 2020 came in like a lamb, but it has certainly shown us its roar like a lion. For those of you who have been affected personally by COVID-19, your COPIN team salutes and supports you. Some of us may not know exactly what you've been going through or are gone through, but we are here to support you in any way that we can. To all returning Eagles, welcome back. Thank you for your continued support and commitment to Coppin State University. To those new to the Eagles Nation, we welcome you and we thank you for making Coppin State your choice in whatever role you will be serving in. This is a historic moment for us, well, for institutions of higher ed generally, because for the first time we are having a University Day where we're not able to hug and celebrate a new academic year with each other. I have watched you greet each other with beaming smiles as we see a colleague after the long summer break for the first time for that academic year. This is quite different. But while we are hampered by this pandemic, we are a resilient group. I bring your attention to the theme for this year's University Day, advancing through adversity. We will persevere. I want to thank the planning committee for coordinating this virtual event. I know I've said this to you before, but Coppin has benefited tremendously from your resiliency as you pivoted to a virtual campus. On March 16th, the first day of spring break, you came together as a campus and made the transition seamless. During your spring break, you took the time to prepare the campus for telework and virtual instructional delivery. You participated in various types of training to prepare for this unknown. And faculty, you readily prepared your courses for virtual delivery and not just populating Blackboard with course details, but for full delivery. And for that, we thank you. As we prepare to start a new semester, a new academic year, and I know we look forward to the time when we will see each other face to face, hopefully in the spring. I want to provide you with a few samples of amazing accomplishments that you recorded during this past academic year and over the summer. If you remember, we launched the 2019-2020 academic year on the fact that we are retention ambassadors. And we each made a commitment that we'll do all that we can to support students so that they achieve the goal that guided them to Coppin State, an earned degree. You have continued your commitment to that cause. Over the academic year, we have had a duplicated count of over 170 faculty and staff who participated in Civitas Inspire for Advisors training. Because of your efforts, Coppin State recorded an increase in its 6-year graduation rate. Just a reminder, for the 2012 cohort, we had a graduation rate of 24%. For 2013, we were at 25%. And this year's 6-year graduation rate is at 30%. And that is thanks to you. You did this. This is all on your shoulder. And so I want to acknowledge your effort. Those incremental increases prove to us that it can be done if we do this together. Your support and commitment to our students continue to move Coppin towards the goals that we have established for increased graduation rates. Thank you again for your efforts. And I ask you, let us not rest on our accomplishments. Let us continue our outreach and support the students. For most of those students, if not all, a degree from Coppin State is the only way to change their current situation. I know that it was for me. So let us make that our priority. Let me share a few other accomplishments with you. During the past academic year, we had 40 faculty members who completed over 65 scholarly work and over 30 creative activities. Over 60 faculty members participated in instructional delivery training provided by IT. Thank you, Dr. Ellen, your team. And those workshops were led by Wendelin and Dion. Over 30 staff members participated in software training to advance knowledge on using platforms during telework. In collaboration with the Kerwin Center and MJ Bishop through USM On Track, we had the most faculty members to participate in those sessions. 35 faculty members registered in over 100 sessions designed for instruction through Quality Matters. 27 registered for Adaptive Learning Summit, 2 for Academic Integrity, and 5 participate in Labster demonstration. And by the way, as MJ reported at the Provost Retreat last Thursday, Coppin was the first to use Labster in the spring. And because it worked so well, and you shared your story, USM has now purchased a license to support all USM institutions. Go, Dr. Giroux and your team. And you did all of this during your summer break. All of this. Thanks to your efforts, Coppin secured funding from over 17 grants totaling over $2 million to support faculty and students. We applaud you. Over 52 faculty members participated in travel to over 70 different professional development activities. And of course, we know it would have been more, but COVID tied our legs. But guess what? You did what you had to help us make sure you're preparing the academic environment for what we are charged to do, lead our students to academic growth. And for the first time in a long while, we have 2 new programs submitted to USM for approval, 2 master's level programs vetted and approved. We have 3 certificate programs that will be submitted next, and 2 new undergraduate programs that are under development. Thank you for making Coppin current. COVID-19, of course, proved an obstacle to our enrollment. The recruitment, enrollment, and financial aid teams stepped up and worked with prospective students during this period of great unknown. More students received their financial aid packages early than any other time in Coppin's history. And advising and registration were all virtual and nothing hitched. There were no blockages. We worked well. We still have some concerns. We had an enrollment in the fall of 2,706. As of today, fall 2020 enrollment is at 2,042. Last year on this same date, we were at 2,253. So I know we're not where we want to be with regards to enrollment numbers. We have a way to go, especially with transfer and graduate student enrollments. But I want to share with you that right now, at this time, there are 852 students who were enrolled in the spring, who did not graduate, who are not enrolled now. Let us continue to work together to reach those students. Reach out to your advisees. You know a student, even if they're not in your program, call them and say, are you registered? Is there anything I can do? What are the obstacles? Let us make this personal as if that student is our own child and we want the best for them. Let us help them to achieve their goal, to get a degree, to make sure their life is different. And at the same time, Coppin will benefit. Retention is truly everyone's responsibility. and enrollment is still our greatest challenge. So we can work together, get to the table, participate in all retention effort, join the retention committee, or make sure you communicate with a representative from your area to that retention committee so we can serve our Coppin State. We can do the best when great minds come together. And Coppin State, let COVID stay where it is. Coppin State is on a roll, and we are going to continue to show that roll and that momentum. Nothing has stopped us in the past, and nothing is going to stop us now. Nothing will. And it's even better because we have a new leader at our helm to help us not get in any way challenged to a greater degree by COVID. And so for us, a new era started on May 26th when Dr. Anthony L. Jenkins became our 8th president. As you've read from his bio, he's a United States Army veteran, and he began his path to higher ed as a first-generation college graduate of Fayetteville State University. He earned a master's degree from North Carolina Central University and a doctorate from Virginia Tech University. His higher ed administrative experiences include service at institutions such as UNC Wilmington, the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and the University of Central Florida. It gives me great pride to ask our president, Dr. Anthony L. Jenkins, to address us. Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Provost. I appreciate you and those kind words. You know, I was listening to everything you were saying, and I was getting riled up. I was excited, and obviously our faculty and our staff continue to do an incredible job. And so it is a pleasure to be here. Let me say good morning to everyone and welcome to University Day and the 2020-2021 academic year as we kick off this semester. Much like the provost, I would like to take a moment and acknowledge and thank our faculty and staff. But before I do that, I want to also send out our thoughts and prayers to anyone or any member of the Eagle Nation family who has been adversely impacted by COVID-19. We understand that this virus that has impacted our state and our nation and our world is something that many of us or all of us have never seen during our lifetime. So we will continue to keep you and your families in our thoughts and prayers, and know that if there's anything that the Eagle Nation can do for you or your loved ones, we are more than happy to do our part. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank a few more people. Obviously, the University Day Planning Committee. I want to thank you for putting on this wonderful event and all of your hard work and your strategic thinking. I want to thank our University Technology team, those folks behind the scene. I can appreciate the difficulty associated with putting on such virtual events, and you all have done an outstanding job since I arrived in May. I also want to thank our academic leadership. I want to thank the provost, our deans, our chairs, and the faculty senate president. I want to thank our IT and enrollment management teams for working so diligently over the summer to get our CVIS platform implemented. And so we know that that is going to be a significant piece in our arsenal to make sure we continue to build upon the great data and results that the provost talked about, our retention and our overall graduation rates. And so we are very excited about having this first phase of this platform in place, and for all those who worked over the summer to make that happen and to go through training. I also want to take a moment to thank our facilities team. Thank you for all that you do for this university. You keep the university clean. Our campus is incredibly beautiful. And so I want to pause and also thank you for your hard work and your commitment and the role that you're going to play even more so as we move into the fall in our low density model and making sure that we continue to keep campus clean all year round. I also want to thank my cabinet and the president's office for their role in University Day and helping me get prepared as well. But staff and faculty, everything we do at Coppin, you serve as the cornerstone and a pillar of our foundation. And regardless of the goals we set, nothing can be accomplished without you, your hard work, and your commitment. So I want to thank you for what you have done in flipping this institution in the midst of this global pandemic. I want to thank you for the ongoing training that you have submitted yourself to. And I want to thank you for your insight, your thoughtfulness, and your willingness to help us return to campus this fall and do so in a safe and healthy environment. So thank you for all that you do and all that you're going to continue to do for Coppin. I also want to thank everyone who participated in our town halls, as well as those who turned out last week for testing here on campus. Special thanks goes out to Dr. Tracy Murray and our College of Nursing team. You all did an incredible job. And I would tell you, as one who went through the process, thank you. Thank you for the coaching and for the support and all those great things. And for everyone who showed up, you are troopers, because it is not as easy as it looked, but our nurses did a wonderful job in making sure that we took a significant first step in getting our campus ready to return. You know, it's always exciting to kick off a new academic year, as the provost indicated, even in these extraordinary times. And whether this is your 20th year or your first semester, it is good to have you as part of the Eagle Nation. You know, since I arrived, my belief in Coppin has steadily increased, and it has been driven by the actions, activism, and attitudes of you, the Coppin community. And there's no question that the delivery of education we have provided during the past few months is vastly different than in years past. The current environment has forced us to teach and interface with our students and one another in ways that are somewhat untraditional to a university like Coppin State. But despite facing a global pandemic and being in the midst of a long overdue reckoning on race in our nation, I have witnessed Coppin lean in. As a university, we have not retreated from these life-altering matters. Rather, the Eagle Nation has intentionally found a way to interject its voice, its expertise, and intellectual strength to make a difference. We should all pause and take pride, not in only how we have embraced our responsibility as a university during these extraordinary times, but also in how we have encouraged our students and colleagues to engage in these important national conversations. The adversity in which we find ourselves in is not the most challenging our university has faced in her 120-year history, but yet they are another opportunity for Coppin to rise and shine. As a university, we can ill afford to exit this current environment the same as we entered, doing the same things and thinking the same way. We are a significant contributor to the character of Baltimore City and to the broader urban environment around us. By the virtue of our mission and our intellectual capital, we are uniquely positioned to continue playing a stronger and broader role in our community in more powerful ways. You know, these difficult times, they have illuminated some challenges for our university, but they have also presented opportunities for us to chart a bolder pathway forward. But doing so will require us to define what type of university we want to be. What is our niche, our core values, our expectations, and our story? Today, we stand at the threshold of what is next for Coppin. And right now, right here, I want all of us to embrace this moment, to know that greater days are ahead, and the next chapter of this university is ours to write. I am challenging all of us to find, maintain, or reignite a renewed spirit of commitment. Our success will require this commitment, one whereby we continue to embrace new teaching methodologies, that we broaden our enrollment strategies, that we expand our philanthropic partnerships, that we began to design better interconnected retention strategies, that we continue to use our resources towards the goals and missions of our institution, that we break down our silos, that we communicate more effectively and openly, and establish greater camaraderie and trust across campus. I want to challenge us to think and rethink about why Coppin exists. It is not here merely so we can have jobs, so that I may serve as president or you as faculty or staff. I want all of us to think about this. Regardless of the position we hold, we have the greatest jobs on earth. We are educators. We get to shape the future, change lives, develop leaders and scholars who will go on to change the world. No, our jobs are not easy. They are as exciting as they are demanding, but they are not easy. And let's never look at our students and think of them as a disruption of our work. They are our work. They are the very reason we are here. They are why Coppin exists. What our students seek and need from us will demand a Coppin that is reimagined, united, less laborious, and more student-centered. It is upon us to get Coppin in order, to create an environment that is aspirational and transformational. You know, when we work in isolation, we become more dysfunctional, smaller, and weaker. And that is not how successful institutions operate. I challenge us to understand everything we do is inextricably linked. Understand that no individual, no college, no department is an island, and no more important or less than any other. We all need one another, and no one area operating in a silo can single-handedly solve the challenges that we face as a university, or can achieve the vision that we're going to develop. You know, it will take an entire Coppin community together, working to make sure we remain strong. And when we work together, there is no problem we cannot solve and no challenge we cannot overcome. When we operate as one university, our intellectual strength and our creativity is unstoppable. You know, everything we do must not be driven by what is easy or by our own self-serving interests, but rather everything we do should be about elevating our students and Coppin. That is the spirit of the Eagle Nation. You know, let us be reminded that Coppin exists to address critical societal problems and serve as an economic asset to our community. We are a catalyst for upward mobility, a pathway to a greater quality of life, and a beacon of hope for students from all walks of life who have entrusted us with their dreams and educational development. The day that our students and community stop believing in Coppin, well, that is the day that we have lost our purpose. And I want each of us to look within and approach this fall with a mindset that no one is more committed than you. Now, I just don't want you to think this. I want you to embrace it. I want you to practice it. I want you to apply it to every aspect of your job every day. When you end your day, I want you to ask yourself this question. Did I do everything I could to make Coppin better today? That is how I'm challenging us to end our day. As we wrap up at our desk, as we walk off campus, ask ourselves, did I do everything I could to make Coppin a better university today? Now, here's the trick. We must first be willing to accept that which we do not know and seek help. It makes no sense to practice inappropriate behavior. It's almost like me going out and continuing to practice my worthless golf swing. I can practice that same worthless golf swing all day long. It's not going to make me a better golfer. It is not until I understand that my swing is flawed and that I identify that and then seek help to make sure that I have the better techniques and a better form so that my swing will one day rival that of Tiger Woods. Now, I don't know if that ever happened, but I'm working on it. It is important for us to rid ourselves of inappropriate behaviors and inadequacies that hinder our ability to move the university forward. You know, working hard is just not enough. It is important that we work smart, that we build our foundation, that we accept responsibility for our shortcomings, and then we seek help to build upon those shortcomings. I've always said it takes a strong person to ask for help. And one of my favorite book titles is that you can't send a duck to eagle school. How appropriate, because as eagles, we soar. And no matter how you dress up a duck, no matter what you attempt to teach it, it will never be an eagle. And I need all of us to soar like eagles. See, every one of us possess the ability to help advance our university forward. The question is, who among us is willing to set aside counterproductive behaviors and embrace their role to do so? You know, we have accomplished too much to settle, and we have invested too much to be a best kept secret. Now is our window of opportunity to rid ourselves of this unflattering association with Coppin. We will no longer be a best kept secret. That identity will no longer be associated with Coppin State University. You know, through our collective efforts, we will work to improve our state and national rankings. We will expand our local, state, national, and international partnerships. We will frame and better promote our successes, improve the quality of and increase the frequency of our branding and marketing, and find ways to interject Coppin into the broader landscape of higher education. We will accomplish these tasks. No, they will not be easy, but I also know they are not impossible. See, these are the opportunities that are before us, but only for a short time. If we do not take advantage of these opportunities now, someone else will, and we will find ourselves on the sideline, looking at others take over places that used to be our strongholds. And as we look at the horizon, we will chart a new course, one that transforms Coppin State University. Our students deserve it, and you deserve it. Together, we will lay out a strategic plan that will guide us, one that fosters our aspirations and positions us to remain competitive, relevant, and sustainable. Together, we will diversify our enrollment. We will create more energy and a student-centered environment that fosters higher student success, retention, and graduation rates. So Provost, that 6-year 30% graduation rate, that is just the tip of the iceberg, because we, Coppin, are going to continue to do better. We will expand our opportunities for experiential learning for all of our students. Yes, we will increase our research, our grants, and our contracts. And the $2 million that we brought into the university last year, that is incredible. and I want to thank everyone who contributed, but we will continue to push the envelope and do more. We will expand our academic portfolio and how we teach, and we will increase university fundraising. By using these broad goals as our framework, we will have the opportunity to introduce and reintroduce Coppin State University to those who don't know us and those who think they know us. From this day forth, I need all of us to do better, be better, and want better for Coppin. The choice is ours to make. You know, Coppin State University is only as strong as we are. There are great days ahead of us. Today, as we prepare to kick off this new academic semester and enter our 120th year, let's seize this opportunity to live up to the history and the promise of our great university. We are Coppin and we are resilient. We are compassionate and we value what we do and who we do it for. We are data informed and we are willing to make the tough decisions. That will ensure that Coppin remains competitive, relevant, and sustainable. And yes, Coppin, we will emerge from this pandemic stronger than ever. We are Coppin. I want us to embrace that. When we say it, I want all of us to feel it, that we are Coppin and we will defend her vigorously because we know how great she is and how important she is to so many individuals. As I've indicated, the days before us are going to be great. The opportunities are ours to seize. And I want to challenge us to seize this moment. The future is ours to shape. There are great moments for us to engage in. I want all of us to have a great year. I want us as eagles to soar, and let's let the transformation begin. Eagles, thank you for all that you have done, all that you are doing, and all that you will do for Coppin State University. It is a new day, a new beginning, and I welcome you to not follow me, but join me in making her the best university she can be. Thank you very much. Go Coppin, and let's have a great year. With that, Provost, I'll address or take any questions that our campus community may have.
Thank you so much, President Jenkins. Amazing. I know that Coppin and all that we are here will rise to the occasion and we will join you on that path. We have two questions, but both questions relate to the return to campus plan.
All right.
And so I'm asking if there are any questions. You can go ahead and post them now for Dr. Jenkins. And then I will make sure to share those with him. Any questions for Dr. Jenkins? Okay, so I guess return to campus is at the top of everyone's mind. So then,
all right.
So take it away, Dr. Jenkins.
Well, thank you, Provost. And again, let me thank everyone. And I know that return to campus is atop everyone's mind. And I know that this past weekend we did testing here on campus. Over the weekend, there was some more news that came out of institutions from across our state and nation. But again, as I indicated, I feel good about where we are on our return to campus. And so we're going to spend a few minutes to talk about that and answer those questions, Provost, that you received. But I want to turn to Angela Galilino, who is going to lead us in talking about our return to campus. And Angela, I believe that you are with us. And at this point, I'll turn it over to you. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Good morning, Coppin State University. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today, even if it's all virtual. I know that many of us are probably virtual meetinged out, if that were a word. We're Zoomed out, we're Skyped out, we're Teamsed out. And at this point, we may even be over email as well, but we have done a wonderful job, everyone, of coming together, as the provost talked about earlier, making sure that everything is ready for our students and us returning them for the fall. So I want to jump right into our return to campus plans. I know that a lot of you have several questions. We had a great turnout of the faculty and staff during the President's Town Hall last week, and we tried to address a lot of the questions that you all had. There were a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to, so I hope to be able to get to those today and address some of your concerns. I'd like to start by saying that your concerns and questions, they are absolutely being heard. We hear you, we're reading your emails, we are discussing the issues and concerns that you have regarding returning to campus. And I'd just like to say, and I'm sure that this is obvious to most of you, but sometimes I have to give myself a reality check. None of us has ever been through a pandemic before. So when I'm having those days, wondering why someone may not have the answer to a situation that we're dealing with related to the COVID-19 preparations, I have to remind myself of that. No one alive has ever been through a pandemic before. So we're all figuring out how we're going to facilitate the continuation of educating students at Coppin State University in the midst of this pandemic. We are working to provide you with information that is thoroughly vetted. And we know that there are some guidelines and requirements that you might get notices about that seem impossible. And sometimes it seems like it may seem like it doesn't make any sense. But I want to emphasize that the COVID-19 task force at Coppin State University are working to make this environment as safe and manageable as possible for everyone. Our team is very inclusive, and Kelly, if you'll go to the, I believe, second slide, we do list, I want to just highlight some of the people who have made this all possible. All of the people on this list, and including others. There are countless others who have been helping to support the task force group leaders through this process. I apologize. Please forgive me if I have missed anyone's name, but I do know that there are countless other people who have been in the trenches with us throughout this summer, since the spring, in trying to make sure that we can do all that we can to keep our campus community safe. Our team, as you can see, is very inclusive, various factions across the campus, and it's a broad range of professional experience, but also it's a broad range of life experience, because we want to make sure that we can develop and implement plans that are conducive to our campus and that best suit the needs of our students and our employees. Coppin State University is not Morgan State, we're not Johns Hopkins, we're not the University of Maryland at College Park. While we have been working closely with the governor's office and the University System of Maryland, we have to, based on those guidelines, develop plans that work best for the Coppin State University campus and community. I'd like to think of this in terms of challenges and opportunities. Of course, this is a challenging time, and a lot of the guidelines that we've implemented may seem very challenging to some of you, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to grow beyond our comfort zones and see the potential that we have as a university family. Before the month of March 2019, we had one program that was online, and that was business management. And look at how we changed everything within 2 weeks, basically, and did everything virtually. So now we know the capacity of this university, and we know what our capabilities are. So I think that this has given us, although probably one of our greatest challenges, it has also presented us with one of our greatest opportunities. And another opportunity is that since we're working so closely together and also with USM and the governor's office, our campus community has access to the latest information related to the coronavirus and any new guidelines that may be determined as they're being developed. So I'm going to go through and discuss some of the most concerning aspects of our plans, and this is also based on a lot of the questions that you guys have been sending us. And you can continue to ask your questions live using the chat feature within Teams. So first we have health and safety, and I want to thank Dr. Tracy Murray and Dr. Siobhan Darden, also Dr. Lisa Early, for assisting and helping to develop most of the information within these areas. Masks or face coverings are required, and they're required by everyone who comes to the campus. There will be masks provided to every student and employee, and you'll see on the slide that there's a photo if you haven't gotten your Coppin State University branded mask. As the president stated, they are very stylish, and I think that they are a good representation, a good way for us to champion our school as we're out and about, and of course, always when we're on campus. Campus signage. For many of you, you haven't been back to the campus yet. There are signs similar to the one that you see in the photo all over the campus. We have stickers on the floor reminding you to stay 6 feet apart. We have reminders regarding washing your hands and not touching your face all over the campus. They're on the doors, they're in the bathrooms. We have hand sanitizing stations at many of the locations scattered throughout the campus. So as soon as you get to campus, you'll see some sign related to safety first and coronavirus preparations and precautions. So our testing, we've had a lot of questions about testing. President Jenkins mentioned that we did a kickoff of our on-campus testing last week on Friday and Saturday. He was the first one to take a test. We had a really great turnout. I believe that we got all of those appointments filled. And for those of you who are wondering whether or not we're going to have additional testing on campus, we are planning to do that, and those dates and times will be announced as soon as we determine them. So what's required regarding testing? No one should report to the campus for any reason unless you provided confirmation of a negative test or are otherwise directed by HR. Now, a lot of questions that we've received have been, what if I've already been working on campus? Well, if you've already been working on campus, you know that you have to get tested, confirmation of a negative test by August 28th. For those of you who have been tested before, we need a test that is as recent as July 22nd. So if you have not been tested since July 22nd, then you will need to have another test done. And the way to provide those results to HR will be, you can email your results to askhr@coppin.edu, or you can fax them to HR. And I'm sorry, I don't have the fax number at the ready for HR, but I'll get it to you. I can provide that later in the presentation, but you can fax that to HR. You can also hand deliver your results to HR, although we would prefer a contactless delivery, but HR has indicated that they are willing to accept your results in a sealed envelope, and you can deliver those to the HR suite. Confirmation of your results will be received by a designated HR staff member, and that person will adhere to all HIPAA and other privacy regulations. So any concerns regarding privacy or your information being given to someone else or provided to someone else, we recognize that this is a health matter. Regardless of what it's about, it's still a health matter, and all of your information will be protected. This will be no different than any other health information that you've needed to provide to the university. I just want to try to assuage the concerns of that anyone might have regarding submitting their health information to HR. Testing will continue to be required and monitored throughout the semester on a monthly basis. Further details regarding the additional testing will be forthcoming. Again, I understand people thinking, well, what if I have to get tested every day, or do I have to get tested every week? And, how are we going to manage that? We understand that these are very important questions, and we are working to develop plans so that there won't be any confusion, so that when you get the notice that you'll need to go get tested throughout the semester, we have those plans and appointments in place so that it won't be very daunting for you to have it done. If you are tested on campus, your results will automatically be provided to the designated individual, so you won't need to take any further action. So if any of you were tested last weekend on campus, your results will be forwarded to HR once they're received. And of course, you'll be notified as well. So a lot of you have been asking about the hotspots and the positivity rates from these hotspots, whether or not we are going to allow students who are traveling from those hotspots and coming back onto the campus for the fall semester, where those hotspots might be. So to the first question, there's a link provided there. It's coronavirus.maryland.gov. And you can go to that link and you'll be able to determine what hotspots, so the so-called hotspots are. Maryland, thankfully, is not a hotspot. We're still below 4% with our positivity rate, and hopefully we can maintain that and continue, and that it continues to decline. On-campus testing is no longer available. What do I do? Additional test dates, as I stated, will be determined. No, you should not report to the campus until you've received a negative test result and provided your confirmation to the university. Now, again, we're still working with that time frame of August 28th. We understand that a lot of you have already been on campus, and you can continue to be on campus as long as your supervisor is on the same page. And if you have any questions about or concerns about continuing to be on campus prior to receiving your negative test results, we really encourage you to reach out to your supervisor and to HR to determine what sort of accommodations might be made. HR has been working with all of the staff since this started, and they continue to do so to make sure that everybody is aware of all of the available accommodations that we have. The external testing link. So for example, last weekend, all of the appointments filled up and you're thinking, well, I wasn't able to get an appointment on campus. Where can I go? There are a lot of facilities around the city and in the Baltimore metro area that are offering free testing. Of course, some of them have some preliminary requirements before they will offer you or allow you to schedule a test. There's an external link, and this link can also be found on the CSU website coronavirus page. And you can go to that link that you see here, and it lists a number of locations that are offering free testing, and there are no preliminary requirements in order to get tested. You just have to make an appointment. I do understand that those places are very popular right now as well, as people are returning, especially educationally and around the city, because we have so many institutions of higher education. Those appointments are filling up pretty quickly as well. So we understand that it's taking some time to get an appointment to be tested. Of course, if you find yourself right up against that August 28th deadline and you haven't yet been able to get tested, we ask that you, sooner rather than later, contact your supervisor and contact HR to let them know that you are trying to be tested, you haven't been tested yet, and everyone will work with you to make sure that we get the requirements done. A lot of you have asked, do contractors and housekeeping have to be tested? We are working with our external partners to see to it that contractual workers also adhere to the campus policies, including confirmation of negative testing. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, that's not a yes answer. It's not necessarily a no answer either. The short answer is yes, we would like for them to be tested and to confirm that they have negative testing. And we are working with those third-party companies who employ those workers who are working on our campus to ensure that they adhere to our policies. So further details will be provided to you soon regarding that. And again, regarding August 28th, if your testing and confirmation are not received by that date, you won't be allowed to report to the campus, but that doesn't mean that you can't work. Of course, those of you who are currently teleworking, then you likely have no reason to report to the campus. If you will be continuing to telework, then you should remain in that capacity, but of course, contact your supervisor and HR for further direction if you're not able to receive a negative test result by the 28th. And again, regarding teleworking, do I have to be tested if I'm teleworking and don't need to come to campus? You do not have to be tested if you won't be coming onto the campus. However, I have received a lot of questions about picking up a parking permit. What if I have to go to my office every now and then to retrieve items? If you plan to come onto the campus, if you think you might need to come onto the campus for any reason, we want you to be tested first. A lot of you have been receiving the daily text message regarding online symptom assessment. You've also been receiving an email reminder regarding that. Hopefully you haven't been annoyed by all of these text messages. We just want to try and establish a habit for people to remind them, especially that it's not only to check your symptoms daily, but especially if you're coming onto the campus, you're required to complete the online symptom assessment to make sure that you're not currently experiencing any symptoms prior to coming onto the campus so that we can try and keep our campus as safe as possible. The responses by employees that are listed in the online assessment are forwarded directly to HR. And if you indicate that you are experiencing any symptoms or you think you might have been exposed, anything like that, someone from HR is going to follow up with you. Again, your information is protected under HIPAA and other privacy regulations. So I'd like to, I'm hoping that you won't be concerned about the privacy of your information. And the student responses, we also have a student online symptom assessment survey, and those responses will be submitted to the being submitted to the health center for any necessary follow-up. And for those of you who if you perhaps have missed the text message or the email that has been going out, you can find that online symptom assessment on our coppin.edu/coronavirus website. On the right-hand side of the page, you'll see a box that says online symptom assessment. There's one for students and one for employees. Cleaning. Understandably, many of you have been concerned about the level of cleaning that's going on campus. Has cleaning been going on throughout the summer, since the spring? Has cleaning been thorough? Have we sanitized the entire campus? Does that include the computer labs, the library, our offices, the conference rooms? Every inch of the campus has been and is being continually cleaned. We are sanitizing all of the facilities. That includes offices, classrooms, conference rooms, and all of the cleaning is being done in accordance with the health guidelines and regulations, and it's also being done on a more frequent schedule. This also includes the elevators and all bathrooms. COVID-19 and related leave. We got a lot of questions during the town hall last week. We weren't able to get to all of them, so I hope to be able to at least highlight some of the biggest concerns that you all have indicated. Employees who are required to quarantine due to being exposed while working on campus, or who become sick or need to care for a family member who's become ill, or those who have to care for children due to COVID-19. All of you are eligible to receive designated leave under the CARES Act. Now, there are a myriad of details that go into the leave regarding the CARES Act. And what I have done, instead of listing all of those, there's a link. You can go to coppin.edu/coronavirus. On the right-hand side of the page, employee resources. And right underneath there is employee paid sick leave and public health emergency leave. And you can check that out for more information. It's very, very informative, and it details each of those categories that you might be concerned about regarding leave as it relates to COVID-19. And of course, you can always contact HR with any questions. You can give them a call or send them an email at askhr@coppin.edu. And I want to pause here. There was a photo, and this is right here, the inside of the elevator. A lot of you may be wondering, well, how are we going to use the elevators? Is everybody going to use the stairs? What if I can't use the stairs and I need an accommodation or accessibility? The elevators, obviously, we don't want you to crowd an elevator and put 10 people inside there. We do want you to still, as much as possible, adhere to the 6-foot rule. But in the elevator, and there are signs, it's not in this photo, but when you're in the elevator, you are to face away from each other, and of course, keep your masks on. And if you feel uncomfortable riding the elevator with any other people who are on there, of course, you can always wait for the next one, or you can take the stairs if you're able. All of this signage is inside all of the elevators, on the outside of the doors, and also inside the elevators as well. Campus dining. The dining hall will be open, and it's going to be available for all of the students, but also for our employees. All of the dining, regardless of your designation, will be carry-out only. The Staff Cafe, the Taw's Grill, and Einstein Brothers will not be open. Hours for the dining hall are posted at coppin.edu/coronavirus. And there are also rates posted for the food. You will have access to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and there are different rate amounts for each one. So you can go to coppin.edu/coronavirus to look at those. For our facilities, a lot of you have been asking whether or not our buildings will be accessible to visitors, considering that we want to make sure that everyone who comes onto our campus adheres to our coronavirus guidelines and procedures. All of the buildings will be locked and accessible by your Eagle card only. So we want to remind you to keep your ID on you at all times so that you can have access to the buildings you need to get into. The fitness center and the pool will be open, but only for the university committee. And you also will need to have your Eagle card in order to gain access to those facilities. Of course, you'll still need to adhere to our campus guidelines, such as social distancing and wearing a mask when you're using those facilities. As I mentioned earlier, email and text alerts are sent out regularly on a daily basis regarding the online symptom assessment, but also throughout the week to students and employees regarding alerts that we just find out about and that we need to let the campus community know right away. So for example, last week, or the week before last, I'm sorry, you received a newsletter from President Jenkins regarding the mandatory testing. And I believe maybe 3 or 4 days later, you may have received an update with some more details regarding our on-campus testing. So we want you to please monitor those platforms, your text messages. If you get a text saying you need to check your email, please, check your email as soon as you can. Monitor your email for any updates and notices, and be on the lookout for the President's weekly COVID-19 newsletter that will come out every Monday morning. So one will be coming out today. We will include reminders in those newsletters for how to stay safe, updates on campus requirements and notices, and there will also be a weekly count of campus total confirmed positive cases to date. You'll be notified individually only if it's determined that you may have been exposed to coronavirus while on campus. I realize that a lot of you have questions about, well, this person is reported to have had or tested positive and they work in, XYZ department. Again, we are keeping track of all of those confirmed positive cases on campus, but especially since, a lot of you understand the importance of maintaining privacy. You won't know the person's name. We won't release that information, but you will be contacted if it is determined that you may have been exposed. We have a protocol and procedure that HR has been employing and will continue to employ, and that is in conjunction with our health and safety group under the Coronavirus Task Force. So we're making sure that we cover all of the bases and that everyone who needs to be notified is contacted. Also, we are cleaning and sanitizing any area that may have been exposed or that person who tested positive may have been in while on campus. So instructional delivery. The provost has done a wonderful job of discussing this over the past couple of weeks, but I'll just touch on briefly some of the highlights. Courses begin on August 31st. That was our original start date for the fall, and we're sticking with that. The majority of courses will be online, and if I'm hoping I get these numbers correct, out of 812 sections, we have 66 sections that are being offered on campus and in person. Everything else is going to be offered online. And the courses that we're offering on campus are select lab courses, performance courses, and high DF or withdrawal courses. All courses will be delivered virtually after the Thanksgiving break. So once we get up to that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the students will leave, and some of them may continue on campus, but once we get up to that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, that is the last day that any courses will be held in person. All courses will be virtual after the Thanksgiving break. A lot of you have asked the question of what happens to the staff that's on campus or teleworking at the Thanksgiving break. This is only regarding course instruction for Thanksgiving. Whatever working status you're in up until that point, that won't change unless your supervisor in HR has determined that it needs to change. Technology training will continue throughout the academic year, and you can also request individual assistance using OIT Help Desk at coppin.edu. So if there are any additional questions regarding our return to campus plans and policies, you can submit them to COVID-19 at coppin.edu. Notice there's a COVID-19 at coppin.edu. And of course, if you need to give me a call, you can always give me a call or send me an email, but we encourage you to use the COVID-19 at coppin.edu email address, and we will work to answer all of your questions as soon as possible. So that's the end of my presentation, but if there are any questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Angela. We do have quite a few questions, but before we get to those questions on return to campus plan, I do want to have a couple of questions to Dr. Jenkins and a couple of comments. One, advice, please hit down on that ball, and that will improve your golf swing.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Listen, I listen to all wise counsel. Thank you very much. All right.
Okay, and another one, just want to let you know, right on, way to go. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Another one, I appreciate your comments on strategic planning. Will we consider an amazing campaign as we start that process? Will we have a campaign?
Yeah. Yes. So as we look forward to developing our strategic plan, and again, this is going to be a much broader, comprehensive conversation across campus. We'll develop our strategic leadership team that will help guide the actual plan. But that is going to include multiple conversations on and beyond campus. And yes, once we get out of COVID, and that's why I indicated it's important for us to expand our philanthropic partners. Yes, an actual campaign is on the table for us. We have to get out of COVID and then position ourselves to make sure we can take flight and make that happen.
All right. Not the last question related to your comments. When you said diversity of student population, which students are you referring to? Will this lead to a merger?
No. So let me be clear. I've had no conversations since I arrived or before I came about any merger. I read what was in the paper somewhat and so forth. But let me tell you what I'm talking about when I talk about the actual diversification of our overall enrollment. I'm talking at the first time in college level and the transfer student level, our graduate student level, our online presence. Okay, we need to branch out and create online degree programs, which we do not have currently at the university. We have online programs, but you cannot earn an entire degree from start to finish without ever stepping foot on our beautiful campus. And I always say, I don't know why a woman would want to do that, right? When they see our campus, they would want to come here. But we know that return adult learners are the fastest growing population in higher education. And if they're working from 8 to 5 or from 9 to 6, and that's when we offer classes, we have to create some opportunities that makes earning a college education from Coppin for them more convenient and more doable, right? When it's most convenient for them. So that is what I mean. We are also going to look at how we build better inroads into our Latinx community. We have to make sure that we are doing all we can to create more access and opportunities for all students who want to join Coppin and earn a quality education. So when I say diversifying our enrollment, that's what I'm talking about. International students, I want that population to grow. Transfer students, our African-American student population, our white student population, and our Latinx student population. That is the diversity that I'm referring to, as well as at the graduate level and online. Nothing about a merger. Let me be clear, no merger, all right? So I hope that answers that question. But that is where I'm going when I say we need to diversify our enrollment.
Thank you. Thank you. Now the questions are pertaining to the return to campus plan. We have an employee who teleworks twice a week, but if they have to travel away from Maryland, do they then telework fully for the 2 weeks of quarantine before they come back for those 2 days a week?
So yes, you would not return to campus if you travel and it's personal travel, it's not university business related. If you travel and you come back and you need to quarantine, then yes, you will not report to campus for those 2 days that you would normally work or work on campus. You would just continue teleworking.
Why must faculty pay full price of parking when we did not receive full value for the passes that were purchased last year?
So your permits are, we have Steve Danick here if he would like to address the question.
Be happy to, Angela. Be happy to. Excellent question. The question was raised as part of University Budget Committee meeting about a week or so ago. And this topic was actually discussed twice with the cabinet, once prior to Dr. Jenkins' arrival, and then after his term as president began. And the decision was made in both conversations to not refund parking, primarily due to the fact that the campus was never closed. The campus continued to function and operate, and we had employees coming to campus. In addition, the permits are actually run for the period September 1 through August 31, with the understanding that there may be needs for employees to come to campus through the term of the permit. So the decision was made not to refund.
Thank you. And I'm sure there will be additional questions about that. If it's not completely responded to, please post your question to the COVID-19 link.
Let me do this just a little bit. Steve, let me have you talk a little bit more about what the different options are moving forward. Yes. Okay.
For the current academic year, an employee can, if they wish, purchase a 1-year permit like they normally would. They may also purchase a monthly permit depending on their schedule, which provides some flexibility. So if, for instance, they don't believe they're going to be on campus in the fall due to the current situation, obviously they can purchase a permit as needed on a monthly basis. And then obviously if circumstances change in the spring, they also have that flexibility. In addition, the employee can pay for parking if they only want to come to campus maybe once, maybe twice a week or a month. So they've actually got 3 options relative to parking when they do need to come to campus.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
First, President Jenkins and Provost Lewis, thank you for today. After listening to you both, I'm excited and look forward to serving with you. Please explain the protocol for external stakeholders visiting campus. Will there be a special check-in procedures when meeting visitors in our offices?
All right, excellent question, and we have talked about that. What we have looked at, thank you, I see that I'm on now. So we have talked about that, and what we are looking at setting up is an actual visiting center here on campus. So an actual visitor center where individuals who need to come to campus would need to check in at that center to obtain a mask, look at an actual quick assessment of if they can enter campus and so forth. So that's what we are trying to work through right now. Now, as one can imagine, there are many moving parts to that, right? So having someone bring documentation with them to make sure that they have an actual negative testing that's in the framework or in the guidelines in which we are talking about. That is one other layer that we're also looking at adding, but we are looking at a central location that all visitors would need to enter and pass through before they can have access to on campus if they are coming to visit someone or there's some external business that needs to be handled.
Thank you. And we have a question about additional slots, but I think Angela has addressed that in her presentation. There is a suggestion here for us, Dr. Jenkins. The thought is that the task force is heavy on administrators and short on faculty. There are only 2. We have at least 2 faculty members with backgrounds in public health. And so the suggestion is that we expand the COVID-19 task force to include additional faculty as we look to the fall semester.
Sure, that one is easy. We will definitely, do that. Listen, we need and want all the expertise that we have on our campus to engage us in these conversations, to walk through various scenarios. And so we will identify those 2 faculty members, provost. We'll add them to the actual list, and we'll continue to strengthen our COP and COVID-19 task force and move forward. All right.
Okay.
All right. So thank you to those 2 faculty who probably didn't know they were going to be voluntold, but that is what happened. And so welcome aboard. All right.
Where are we to pick up masks to be prepared for first day of classes? And will face shields be distributed to face-to-face instructors?
So I'm going to divide this question up. I'm going to turn to Steve. I do not think Dr. Early is on the line with us, but Steve, I'm going to have you talk about where face masks or face coverings can be picked up. And Provost, you have talked previously about the face shields or face guards. And I'm going to have you chime in on that one. All right, go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. The HR department has been in contact with all of the operational areas on the campus and identified a point of contact for purposes of providing the masks to the departments. At this point, I believe most, if not all of the departments have contacted HR and have either received the masks or have picked them up. So check with someone within your area, whether it be an academic division or a department, and they should have the masks with them. If you're unable to do that, I'm sure you can contact the HR department and they can put you in touch with the proper person to pick that up when you come to campus for the first day.
And with regards to the question on face shield, yes, we have purchased 100 face shields. Right now we have 46 faculty members who are slated to be teaching face-to-face. And so each faculty member will receive face shields. I will distribute the face shields once we receive them in my suite. We'll distribute them to the areas where those faculty are teaching from, to the department. So yes, that will be available.
So let me do this so we can kind of clear this up a little bit. I want every vice president to contact their respective areas, make sure that they have the mask, okay? And then I want a clear understanding of how those masks are going to be distributed, okay? I want every director, AVP, or vice president to reach out to their teams respectfully and inform them on how those masks are going to be picked up, okay? So we will do that and do that by the middle of this week, and then contact our teams, all of our faculty and our staff who are going to be coming to campus so that they know precisely who, how, where, and when to pick up these apparatuses, okay? All right, any other questions?
The next question focuses on room assignment. And so when will rooms be assigned for teaching courses on campus? And I can tell you that the room assignments have been made. A thorough review was done by facilities and registrar's office, and room assignments are available at the link that says face-to-face fall classes. We will make sure that they are posted to Eagle links, but the room assignments are already made. Next question, for those who tested this past weekend, when will the results be ready? How will they be delivered?
Angela, I'll turn to you because I do not believe that our health team is on the call.
Thank you. So for those of you who tested on campus, your results should be ready in 2 to 4 days. Of course, you know, that's a range, and that's what we're told. That's the quote that we're given. So 2 to 4 days, and if you tested on campus, you'll be contacted by the health center with those results.
Thank you. How is COPPIN prepared to help students who cannot safely come to campus but do not have device to do digital learning?
Excellent question. So we have been talking, and when I say we, the COPPIN task force as well as the cabinet, we have been talking about laptop computers for students. We have not yet finalized and worked out how we would go about doing that, but that's one of the options we have put forth, is how do we provide our students with that technology for those who have identified that they need that type of support. So it is on our radar, and we are working to find a solution to that problem, because we understand that some of our students will be impacted in that way. So excellent question. It is not something that we are not engaging ourselves to think about, but we're still trying to formulate a plan on how that's going to look for us. And we know that time is of the urgency because the start of the semester is just a few weeks away.
What do we do if we have been in contact with someone who tested positive, but we were only in contact for a minimal amount of time?
I guess I'll take that one. Listen, I am not a health expert, but what I will say is that if you have learned that you've been in contact or you crossed paths with someone who's contracted the virus, I want you to go get tested. Right? I want you to be on the safe side and make sure that you are taking care of yourself and that you have that mental reassurance that you have not been adversely impacted. All right. So even if it was for a brief moment, because I don't think any of us know concretely how long it takes for this virus to pass from one person to the next. OK, so just to be on the safe side and to make sure that you have that mental reassurance you need that you're fine, I suggest and want you to go get tested.
Okay, there are a few more questions. I know we are at the time for the next topic, but I'll ask a few more before we move to the next topic.
Okay.
Are all outside vendors who work on campus required to be tested just as COPPIN employees, such as Thompson's, Johnson's Control, WCC?
So let me take that one, and then I'll let anybody else chime in that if they want to. Let me be clear on my expectations. In working with our partners, yes, we are having those conversations to make sure they understand any interface with our campus community, that they need to reassure us that those individuals who are going to be on our campus have been tested, whether that's Thompson or the local construction company and so forth. We are working through that process now. Team, listen, it would make no sense for me to require our faculty and staff who are dedicated to COPPIN to jump through all of the hoops of being tested and not require the same or have the same expectation of those individuals who bump up against us via some third-party contract. So yes, that is atop our list. We are working through that, and that expectation and mandate will be met. Some of that has taken place. It has not been, we have not been in a position to capture everyone as of right now. We are working on that.
Okay. Can you tell us about the ventilation and the types of filters used for recirculation of air, cooling, and heating, especially in buildings such as HHSB and the STEM, where windows cannot be opened?
Yeah, I'll take that one as well. I'll take that one as well to quickly pass it off, because no, I cannot. That is above my IQ level. So let me turn to some expert who can help us do that. Steve, who do you have on your team that can speak to that? Okay, Steve said he can speak to it, so here you go. It's all yours.
Okay, I preface this by saying I am not an engineer. However, what I can tell you is we have made arrangements with our contractor. We have moved from a quarterly replacement of filters in all of our heating and ventilation systems and air conditioning systems to a monthly cycle of replacing these filters. And we have increased the type of filter we are using from a level 8 filter to a level 13 filter. So not only have we increased frequency, but we've also increased the level of the filter to help assist with filtering out the particles that are in the air. Now, unfortunately, that is where my expertise ends, and so any further information, I will need to get that from the folks that know a lot more than I do.
So let's do this, Steve, so that we can ensure. Let's do this so we can ensure that we are addressing that question as fully as we possibly can. Steve is going to gather some more technical engineering response to that question, and then we will post that on our COVID-19 website, okay? So that way folks can go on there and then look at not only what Steve introduced, but what our engineers have recommended we can do reasonably to finish addressing that very important question, okay?
And there are a couple others that I just want to mention the responses right away. One, how can they get the text messages? You can update your information in Eagle Links. So if you go to your Eagle Links and access your personal information, you indicate what is your primary phone that you would like the text messages to be sent to. So you can get into Eagle Links and make that change. Dr. Jenkins, a suggestion as we look to a recruitment plan to please include Asians and Filipinos as a part of our priority recruitment outreach efforts, not just Hispanic, not just Latinx.
That's right. You're absolutely correct, and that's a part of the diversification that I was referencing with our campus community. Again, those who are born here in the United States, and as I indicated, international students. And so that helps create a more rich environment for our campus community because we are preparing our students to be global citizens. And so they can ill afford to work, live, grow in a vacuum. And so thank you for that piece. And I will definitely make sure that when we put together our enrollment comprehensive management documentation, the team will consist of individuals from across campus, that will be a part of the subgroup that we are looking to attract to our campus. Okay.
All right. And I will, two other quick comments, and then Angela, you have a comment. The health center will be in operation. It will be in operation throughout the semester. Yes. And if you have a student who needs a device, I have been asking the deans to send me the names of students who they know who need a device. So if you know of a student who needs a device, please share it with your dean, and that will get to me, or you can send it directly to me. Angela, and then we will transition to the next topic.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. I just wanted to let everyone know that the health center is accepting walk-up testing on this Friday. So any of you who have not been able to schedule an appointment or get testing elsewhere, please know that you can walk up to be tested this Friday, which is August 21st. And if you need any further information regarding that, please contact the health center. The health center, I see one question was whether or not the health center in operation. Yes, our community health center has been and continues to remain in operation and will be. And the last point I'd like to make is regarding the faculty participation on the task force. Again, I wasn't able to get everybody's name on that list, but we do have several other faculty members who have been participating throughout the summer. 7 of them have been working on the health and safety work group with Dean Murray. And then we have at least 5 other faculty who have been assisting the provost as well. So we want to make sure that we're inclusive of everyone. And as President Jenkins stated, we'll certainly work to include all those additional faculty moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, if you have additional questions, please feel free to send them to that COVID-19@coppin.edu website, and we'll make sure that we respond to all of those questions.
And I'm sorry, one more point. Don't forget to email any other questions to COVID-19@coppin.edu.
Okay. At this time, we want to transition to talk about budget. As you know and have heard in the news, there have been challenges to many institutions of higher ed with regards to budget downfall. And so we know that you want to know exactly what's going on at Coppin. And so we have the expertise right here. And so Vice President Stephen Danek is going to talk with you a little bit about Coppin's current budget situation. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back for another year here at Coppin. It's an exciting year, challenging year, but I think one filled with a lot of promise, as Dr. Jenkins has highlighted. On the screen, I've provided you a summary of our current operating budget for the current fiscal year, and needless to say, you can see the numbers in front of you. We've taken a fairly significant reduction in our overall budget, going from $76.8 million last year to $71.2 million this year. And the majority of this is all related in some form or fashion or another to the current situation that is facing us here in Maryland from an economic perspective, but also across the nation. So let me just talk a little bit to help you understand what we've got in this budget, how we arrived at it, and what we are planning for going forward. Let me begin with our student tuition and fees. Right now, our presumption is that we will see flat enrollment over FY20 levels. That is possibly going to be a challenge. We don't know at this point. Obviously, we still got some time to go before the semester begins, but we'll be watching that pretty closely. But we did not assume anything beyond flat over last year's actuals. When it comes to the actual rates of tuition and fees, some of you may be aware that the USM Board of Regents took action at their June meeting to hold all tuition, mandatory fees, and room and board at last year's levels. So there were no increases in any of those rates. This was done by the Regents, recognizing the challenging economic conditions facing all of our students and all of our future students. And they wanted to make sure they were being as responsive as possible to that situation. As you might imagine, we also saw a reduction in our state appropriation because of the current economic conditions and what the state is facing. You can see there we took a fairly significant reduction of a little over 7% from $48.8 million to $45.3 million in our state appropriation. And that is, I will tell you, as of today, we are not sure if there will be future action in this fiscal year. As you know, this is a fluid situation and things may continue to evolve. We just don't know at this time. And then lastly, as you can see in the line labeled sales and services of auxiliary enterprises, there's almost a $2 million reduction here. This is primarily the result of our decision to reduce the capacity in our residential halls by 50%. So compared to our normal approximately 630 students, we will have somewhere in the neighborhood of 300, 320 students, hopefully, for the fall semester. So when you add up all of those adjustments and changes, you get about a $5.5 million reduction in our revenue stream. We balanced those changes by reductions in expenditures, starting first with any expenditures that had any level of discretion to them. Most of those do not impact people. It's primarily things such as travel and other discretionary items. So we looked at reducing that, number one. Then we moved to other expenditures. We were assisted by the University System of Maryland in some of their mandatory, if you will, pass-through charges. They were kind enough to relieve us of a few items for this current fiscal year, which helped to reduce those expenditures. And then we reduced our contractual employees. And finally, we looked at reducing or eliminating, if you will, funded vacant positions. So our goal was to try at all costs to minimize the impact to existing employees of the institution. We were able to arrive at a balanced budget, as you can see on the screen, and we were able to do this by utilizing only a small portion of our CARES Act money. And let me explain to you what we did receive in the form of CARES Act money from both the federal government as well as from the state of Maryland as a pass-through. From the Federal CARES Act, we received three pieces of funding. The first piece was approximately 1.36 million that was designated for our students. That was a pass through the university, and we distributed that money to our students in the May-June timeframe in the form of checks that were sent out. We received a companion equal to that same amount in institutional CARES Act monies that we fortunately did not need to use in our last fiscal year. So we have that available this year as part of our contingency, if you will, for any reductions in enrollment or further state appropriation cuts. And then lastly, we were fortunate enough to receive $4.2 million in HBCU CARES Act funding. That again is part of our overall contingency for the current fiscal year. And obviously we'll utilize as necessary for both any reductions in any of our assumptions as it comes to revenue, but also using it towards additional costs associated with the COVID-19 pandemic and the needs of the campus to ensure that we are providing as safe an environment as we possibly can. With all of that being said, we're also keeping an eye on our fiscal 22 year. And I say that only because what we are hearing from the state of Maryland is concerning. Their projections for their tax revenues for next fiscal year are as bad, if not worse, than they are for the current fiscal year. In situations like this, the impact of tax revenues usually has a lead time on it. In this case, it's going to be this year and then rolling into 22 and possibly 23. So to that end, we are also starting to think about next year, if you can believe it, even though we haven't even started this academic year. We need to be cautious and careful because all of the CARES Act money we received is one time. And so we're already starting to think about what if scenarios should we see further reductions in our revenues from the state for next year. With all of that being said, we were fortunate enough to get some state CARES Act money. It was a pass through the state of Maryland. We received a little over $700,000 in fiscal 20, and it was in last year's operating results. And this year we are also slated to receive some additional funds from the state of Maryland that are all earmarked towards some form of COVID expenditures, whether it be for technology, whether it be for PPE, whether it be for campus facilities, security, et cetera. So those dollars are all identified for specific types of expenditures, which means we don't have as much discretion, if you will, as we do with the federal money. With that all being said, we're still keeping a close eye on the fall semester. Obviously, as the pandemic situation changes and is fluid, we need to be ready to react. We're hoping that our plan will come to fruition and we will have students on campus. We will run some face-to-face classes, but we just don't know. So we've got to be cognizant of that. We've also got to be careful to watch how all of the other items are playing out so that we're not only being cautious with this year's dollars, but again, as I said, starting to think and plan as we look forward to our fiscal 22 year and the unknowns that lie ahead. That's a relatively brief summary of a long process that's been going on for several months and will continue to go on. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Steve. And I also want to say thank you, Angela. I did not do that. Forgive me. Thank you so much for the details you provided. And thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for responding to those questions. Right now, I do not see any budget questions, but I see a question about a faculty posting, and that faculty position has been filled. And so just so you know, that position has been filled. You will get that information later as we welcome new individuals to campus. While I wait for questions on the budget, Dr. Jenkins, if you don't mind, there is a question that I would like for you to think about and maybe a brief response. What would you have shared with us today as a new president if there were no pandemic to focus, to target your focus?
You know, I don't think that my message would have been starkly different. I think that the things that I talked about, how we come together as one university, how we break down silos, how we focus on our retention, our graduation, our student success rates, our diversification of the university's enrollment, how we advance or expand our academic portfolio to include online degree programs and creating more opportunity at the graduate level. I don't think that my conversation would have changed much. I do say that, again, these are the opportunities that are before us, pandemic or no pandemic. So not much would have changed. I still would have challenged us to think of why we exist, to understand that we need to continue, and we've made great strides in becoming more student-centered, that our purpose is to serve our community and to educate those students from all walks of life, those who are coming from the best academic backdrops, as well as those who need some more academic support. But that is who Coppin is. And I don't want us to ever lose sight of who we are. And I want us to challenge ourselves to be bolder, to think bolder, to have bolder actions, to have a greater swagger about who we are and what we do. So my talk today would not have been much different other than the actual pandemic that we're in, and we are doing it this way as opposed to me being in the same room with you and feeling your energy and your excitement. But those are the things I'm going to continue to challenge all of us on, including myself, as we move forward through this and multiple years to come. So thank you, Provost, and thank you for that excellent question.
Thank you. And we do have a question for Steve. Are there any furloughs or layoffs being discussed?
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. At this time, no, there are no discussions around furloughs or reductions of any type.
Another question, what about the need for parking increases when even the USM has halted all increases?
If many of the employees will recall, shortly after I joined the institution in 2016, we actually significantly reduced our parking by almost 15%, and we've held it there for the last 4 years. Due to that change and holding it constant over the 4-year period, as well as seeing increased operating costs, we really didn't really have much choice. We needed to increase the rates to assist that area. And even with the 5% increase, we're still well below where the rates were prior to reducing it by 14% back in fiscal 2017.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Danik. And we are going to transition to the next topic. Of course, as you know, we have, you've heard it many times, we've done such an amazing pivot to try to get everything ready to serve faculty, staff, students, to be sure that Coppin continues its mission and its vision. And so we want to share with you just a little bit of some of the things that we have done, that you have done over this summer to get us ready for the fall. And so as you see on your program, we have invited several individuals to do some brief announcements, some brief conversations of some of what they have done during this time. And so we're going to start off with looking at the resources that we have used to support our persistence with regards to instructional delivery, with regards to our counseling center, our disability support services program, information technology, student activities, and occupation insights. And so those individuals are going to present to you in a seamless format. And I still encourage you to post your questions. At the end of all of those presentations, we will address your questions. So take it away, Dr. Covington.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Lewis, for inviting me. As you mentioned, I just have a few tips that I thought were useful. Many faculty have probably already engaged some of these resources, but I just think with everyone being forced to a virtual environment, these particular tips are very good with helping you maintain some normalcy with your course instruction. And for those of you who just can't get a rhythm with online delivery, hopefully these tips will help you reach out to your students and be more effective with your courses this semester. So with the next slide. So the first one I suggest, just schedule live discussions with your class. We have Blackboard Collaborate already built into Blackboard. And if you look under your weekly courses, and actually it's one of the tabs already built in, there's a section that you can build in live delivery. So if you just click on that and schedule your time, let's say that your class was scheduled to meet face-to-face from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. You can schedule your online live discussion during that same time, and you can still meet face-to-face, just as if you're in class with the students. I know last semester when we transitioned from face-to-face to online, a lot of my students still felt like they needed to check in and be there. So, you know, when they had questions or, you know, assignments or projects or anything, I could just engage in with my students to make sure that, you know, they were still following along and engage their understanding with the course. You can also use Microsoft Teams or Skype, whatever method you feel more comfortable with. Just using one of those live platforms for your students to be able to reach out to you and you to see them and really just get a feel for how your class is doing. The second one is if you haven't used Bookings, it's part of the Microsoft 360 platform. It is amazing. You can set up your schedule so that when students just click on your link, they can schedule appointments to meet with you. I use it a lot for academic advising. I just have my student, and I've integrated the link into my signature in Outlook so that, you know, students can just click on it, schedule their appointments, you know, whatever time it may be, that's within your calendar, because you can restrict times as well. And it also mirrors your calendar for work in case you have meetings or something, so it doesn't conflict. But it's really good with being able to still have that interaction with your students and schedule appointments. Another suggestion that I actually took away from one of the instructional delivery professional development courses that we visited is to break out your students into groups when they meet weekly. That way, you're keeping the students engaged. A lot of times when you just kind of send them off virtually and you're not checking in with them or kind of forcing them to engage with each other, they will fall off really quickly. So breaking them out into groups, which you can also do within the Blackboard platform, you can either assign the groups or kind of do them randomly, but using that method helps to keep them engaged in the class and in assignments, and plus they're interacting with other students. So that's good for finding out, you know, other students can gauge, you know, how are you doing right now? You know, how's this lesson coming to you? What are your thoughts? Just being able to have that engaged discussion with the students, and then, you know, kind of getting that feedback from them. Next, it's also good to integrate a peer review or chat discussion. So in your chat menu or your discussion menu, you can give your students feedback. There are various platforms that you can either record a message and send it to them, or you can type up, you know, a quick little note and attach it and send it to them. But just getting feedback to your students so that they know in this virtual situation, like you're on point, you know, don't feel like you're falling behind, things are going well. You know, on the alternate, if they're not doing well, hey, let's schedule some time to talk. I don't think you're following what's going on. But again, you can give that feedback to your students so they kind of get a feel for what's going on and you're not totally losing them in this virtual environment. And that kind of ties in with the checkpoints on performance. Again, if you're able to give good feedback to your students on, you know, how they're engaging, you can also check the retention page on your Blackboard to find out how often the students are checking in, you know, what's the percentage of, you know, assignments completed, you know, are people falling off. Again, it's just kind of gauging the temperature of your students to see where you really need to, you know, put in more pressure or, you know, more contact points so that they're following along and not, you know, falling off. Next slide. So just some things to consider, and as you know, academicians, we all know this. Students learn differently. So, you know, the student that's used to that face-to-face environment and now being forced to a virtual environment, you're going to have to put in a little bit more effort because they do learn differently. One method of engagement may not properly cover the concepts or content. So just to send out a video and, you know, give them a list of questions to answer, yes, they can complete it, but what did they actually learn from it? So just come up with different ways that you can engage them. And the instructional technology department is great with giving you tips and tools to, you know, integrate within your course platform to keep your students engaged and just give them various methods of understanding the content. You also want to consider the new students and returning students. New students really don't know what to expect coming in. So, you know, keep them in mind and, you know, make sure you're following up with them so that they don't feel left behind or feel overwhelmed coming into the college experience. Advisement is also a very critical one. I think it was mentioned about, you know, some of the students who haven't registered yet. You know, again, maybe they're feeling a little apprehension about signing up this semester because they know it's going to be virtual. So making sure you reach out to them and, you know, gauge their understanding as to where they feel about the semester and, you know, kind of consoling them and making them feel like it's okay to register and you can still continue your course of study and that you'll have support while you're doing it. And then finally, also consider that, you know, with this environment, students still have disability accommodations. And, you know, I'm not going to try to cover Dr. Spry's area, but keep in mind that those accommodations still need to be followed even in the virtual environment. Students are dealing with health issues, you know, if they're in household environments with, you know, grandma or grandpa or aunt and uncle, you don't know what they're dealing with. So sometimes, you know, when you notice a fall off, it could be something that's going on in the house. So just keep that in mind. And then there are also learning gaps. With the shift from from face-to-face to virtual, you know, they may not have retained a lot of content at the end of the semester. So just keep that in mind as you're doing the continuing courses that you may need to review and reiterate some of the content that was in the latter course just to catch them up. And then finally, you know, especially with our adult learners, technology isn't everybody's friend. So, you know, just being sure that, you know, you're going over what they need to do to follow along in the course. If they're having problems, how to refer them up to IT to get them set up, and just really having consideration that, you know, sometimes there is a little bit of a gap in terms of people following along fluently. And just a final thought, if you're having issues with the transition to virtual and, you know, you're just trying to find the best way to reach out to your students, think about who you can partner with to find best practices that might be effective for your students. If you know another instructor who is really effective at reaching their students online, maybe reach out to them and just ask them, you know, what works best for you? And, you know, how can you help me integrate that into my course? Second, definitely utilize instructional development to help create an open learning environment. Some of the tips and tools that I mentioned, but there are various other platforms that you can integrate into your courses to really help students learn. And then finally, don't be discouraged by virtual teaching. This is an environment we're all forced into, and hopefully we'll make the best of it. But I hope the tips help. And if I could hand it off to Dr. Jaru, he's going to introduce the perspective from lab instruction. Dr. Jaru.
Thank you, Dr. Covington, and greetings, Captain. Greetings from the sciences. Today, my talk will be maintaining safety in the labs while keeping the quality and then the standards that we have in our science labs. So in my presentation, I will be focusing on some of the protocols that we put together to run those face-to-face labs. Next slide, please. So more than 90% of our science labs will be delivered face-to-face in this fall. In fact, to quantify this, we'll be running about 23 lab sections, and we'll be serving about 475 students in our labs. What that means is we really have to create a safe environment because we'll be spending 3 to 4 hours in a lab with our students. So safety becomes our first concern. So there are indeed basic protocols that we work through the summer in order to keep a safe environment. The first one is to reduce density by 50% with a maximum capacity of 12 students per lab. For example, if a lab has 26 students, we are going to take the first 12 in our face-to-face for week 1, and the remaining 14 will be doing the same lab, but virtually. So we will be running concurrent virtual and face-to-face sessions every week. And I'm grateful for my faculty and staff who tirelessly worked through the summer in creating those demo labs and then virtual labs that mimic the face-to-face labs. So students will experience face-to-face labs, but in alternate weeks. So what this means is the first 12 will do face-to-face this week. The remaining 14 will do the same lab virtually. And in the following week, we will swap them. The first 14 will come to the lab, and then the next 12 will be doing their virtual lab. So that way we can provide the face-to-face experience across our students. Next slide, please. So our labs have a typical capacity of 24 to 26 students, depending on the size. If it happens that we have more than 12 students in a lab, then we are going to use overflow rooms. And in these overflow rooms, the lecture will be, or the lab instruction will be broadcasted using Blackboard Collaborate. And at the moment, we are hiring senior graduate students, graduating students, to serve as lab assistants for our professors and lab technicians. So in the overflow rooms, we may have 3-4 students. They will be provided with all the lab supplies, but in terms of supervision, the lab assistants and then the lab technicians and then the professors will also float between the two labs. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned earlier, safety is our #1 priority. So what you see here is a prototype of plexi partitions that we are installing in each lab, on each desk. You can imagine how expensive this is, but we are very grateful for our provost and the vice president for finance administration for providing us the support, the financial support. So what you see here is indeed the frames without the glasses yet, because we are still manufacturing them. So individual student will be working in this plexi box. And in the plexi box, they will be provided, of course, the masks. But in addition to the masks, they will be provided also the face shields. Because as I said, exposure for us is most concerning. We'll be spending 3 hours together in each lab at minimum. So we will provide face masks and face shields, and then the students will be working in these plexi boxes. And the plexi box will have all the media, microscopes, and anything and everything that a student needs for a specific lab. And in a way, this will facilitate individualized learning experience while keeping safety, and professors and lab technicians will be able to provide that personalized instruction for our students. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, to mimic the face-to-face labs, over the summer, our faculty and then staff paired together to create those demo labs and then virtual labs. And what you see here is just a photo of one of our lab technicians recording those virtual labs that will run concurrently with the face-to-face labs. So in this way, we will not compromise on our quality, on our standards, despite the pandemics. So we will keep our quality. In addition to all this, we are going to provide strict safety guidelines. In addition to what Angela mentioned earlier, we have prepared also strict safety guidelines. And the safety guidelines will be discussed with our students on day one lab, and then they will have to sign on the first day of our labs, because as I mentioned, we have so many shared resources in the labs, instruments and what have you. So unless all of us are safe and then responsible for our safety, one damage is too many. So that's why we would require students to sign this agreement, these guidelines, so that becomes part of our documentation. That said, if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer at the end. Thank you.
Dr. Wadis Daniels,
Yes,
you're up.
to everyone. I'm Denise Wadis Daniels from the College of Health Professions, and I'm going to share with you some of our instructional delivery during this COVID period. So we all had to be innovative during this time. We had to think creatively. We had to make up something new and different in order to get our academic goals met. So we shifted to a virtual environment, just like everyone else did. In that virtual environment, we still held classes. That was something new and different. As a part of the FITC, we now know or understand that a virtual environment is not necessarily online. It looks kind of sort of that way, but it's not. We had excellent technology support. I want to thank you. They were fantastic. If people take their computers over, get everything logged in and uploaded, and the support they had for our students was tremendous. We had to identify some testing software for our students. In other programs, I know you have different kinds of assessments. We have level assessments. We have end of program assessments that is deemed by our accrediting bodies. So we had to learn a whole new software as well and teach the students how to use it. As faculty, we had to support one another. So we had many, many, many conference calls. Angela at the beginning said, yes, we were conference called out, Zoomed out, Skyped out at 8 o'clock in the morning to sometime 8 p.m. at night. But we had to come together and even bring our adjuncts into those conversations to make sure that we could lift this program and put it in a virtual environment. So what did we do? So I'm going to talk about our clinical practice, but also I was thinking about the programs that may have internships like student teaching. Some of these things can be adaptable to those kind of programs as well. We had a 12-hour clinical day for our students traditionally. And so now in this environment, we had to develop a 12-hour virtual clinical. And so we developed a 12-hour clinical template that could be used across our clinical sites. And I encourage people in other disciplines that may have, again, those kind of clinical practices, you need to write it out. You need to sit down and decide what that day is going to look like, because that is how you're going to orient your faculty as well as your students. After we developed the template, we sat down, we looked at it, we vetted it from several different perspectives, and we gathered faculty together, again, in those different Skype meetings, and talked about it. We also gave it out to our students. We incorporated our adjuncts as well and walked through, and we also had to be a support to them, be available for any kind of questions, because this was new and different. We knew that there would be some glitches in it, and so we had to work through it. How did we give them the clinical experience they needed? How would you provide for your education students or your social work students or those that are in nonprofit organization leadership? How would you give them that kind of clinical practice that they needed? Well, we use case studies. We have been educators for long periods of time, so I'm sure we have down in, as my daughter used to call it, your Barney bag of different case studies of people that we knew. We can write those up. Those are real life experiences. We also asked our students to participate in grand rounds. So as your students have been practicing up to a certain period of time, let them present their case studies. How would they resolve some problems of their in their educational places? We did it in our clinical practice. We aligned them back to the course objectives. We also did what we call virtual patient simulation. So we use specialized software that helped our students to critically think. It was almost like a gaming kind of software. And Dr. Lewis mentioned in the beginning that many of the Coppin faculty attended a lot of the sessions offered by the system. There was several different types of software presentations in those workshops that you could use to simulate an experience for your student. Those, again, they're like games, and so we are dealing with a population that is used to gaming. I tried them out a couple of times. They were fun. I messed up on some. I did well on others, and so I did it just to see, and other faculty did it. We did it just to see what the student would experience so that we could help them. So in the bottom line, innovation is the key to education. If we teach our students today as we were taught yesterday, we rob them of their tomorrow. And so Coppin, we are looking for our tomorrow. We have to think outside the box. We have to erase the lines that we have drawn around us and think innovatively.
Mr. Thomas, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. There's always one. There's always one. Hi, my name is Chris Thomas from the Center for Counseling and Student Development, and I wanted to share with you a few things about how we transitioned to a virtual environment online, and about how we're going to plan to continue that in the fall. So building connections to create communities in virtual settings. The Coppin Counseling Center was able to partner with local universities in the area of counseling and case management to create a really robust set of resources that we're able to push out to the students in the general Coppin community. Increase student outreach and mental health supports. The Counseling Center was able to really reach out to students in an individual way. So we're certainly zoomed out but the counseling center was able to zoom in and connect with students through individual phone calls, communicating the message that we're still here and that they matter to us. Enhanced collaboration with faculty and staff to support virtual learning. So Dr. Covington had discussed some strategies to kind of to use to kind of keep students engaged in classes, and the counseling center was able to supplement that and talk about strategies to not only just to stay engaged, but to deal with mental health issues that are part of that engagement, like the anxiety of adjusting to an online class environment, which is very, very different as it enters into areas of motivation and concentration and focus. So those are the things that we're able to kind of address in support of the virtual learning. Fostering resilience for students during the COVID-19 pandemic. Mental health apps and infographics. Because students love apps, there's an app for everything. The Counseling Center was able to develop a list of some really resourceful apps designed to address issues of stress and anxiety, but also issues of things like focus, like mindfulness and things of that sort. We're also able to create a list of a catalog of infographics, which are designed to give students information in a bite-sized kind of manageable format. So again, to focus on issues that are related to COVID-19, but also that are related to adjusting to virtual learning. So infographics about focus and studying and how to refine those strategies, and also issues of kind of motivation. How do we kind of continue to be kind of motivated in a world of uncertainty? The Mental Health Minutes. The Mental Health Minute was a collection of videos that we were able to develop, again, to give students kind of a bite-sized, kind of small segment of information that's very, very manageable. So in these videos, we were able to produce, we focus on things like creating a structure and maintaining that structure, and the importance of maintaining structure in a world where there's a lot of uncertainty, but also in a home where there are lots of distractions, and sometimes it's difficult to focus at home at your desk. Website updates. Easier navigation for scheduling appointments. The Counseling Center was able to adjust its procedures and policies in regards to scheduling appointments and push that information out to students. So we're talking about regular appointments and emergency appointments. Accessible COVID-19 resources. Because the Counseling Center has been focused on service and safety, we were able to develop a robust list of resources to push out to students that focus on mental health needs, but also focus on real world kind of practical needs like food or unemployment, as students lost jobs and had to struggle to try to survive and do well in their studies at the same time. Next slide. Now I'm going to discuss our plans for virtual learning coming up in the fall of 2020. Expanded telehealth services. So the Counseling Center won't be accepting walk-in appointments. Students who approach our office are able to kind of engage some signage, which has information about scheduling appointments, but also has information about referrals to community resources in the area. So instead of walk-ins, we'll be able to engage a telephone triage system, where we'll be able to talk with a student in real time to assess kind of how best to address their needs. Students who are in need of an emergency appointment, kind of on the spot, will be able to engage with us via telehealth. So although there won't be a walk-in component, there'll still be an opportunity to access services on the spot. Increase student access during evening hours. The great thing about telehealth is that students will be able to access us during an expanded portion of the day. So oftentimes students are working, and the counseling center may not be here at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, but they'll still be able to access us and get the help they need at later parts of the day. Student outreach activities. Student athletic programs, managing stress, fostering resilience, and healthy mindset discussions. So the Counseling Center has partnered with student athletics to meet with each team individually to discuss the big transition, as students won't be competing this fall. They'll be continuing to practice. And so how do we adjust that mindset? How do we reframe this time that students have so they can continue to be productive and flourish in an environment where that looks a lot different, frankly? So how do they adjust that mindset? How do they continue to be resilient? How do they continue to manage that stress? It's very different from a team. A team has unique kind of a culture, and so the Counseling Center has been able to address that with each athletic team. Eagle Chats are weekly virtual student drop-in groups. So myself and Ms. Reynolds, the director of the Counseling Center, will be able to engage students in a drop-in format. So in addition to regular scheduled kind of appointments, students who may have something on their mind in the more immediate, who may not want to schedule an appointment or may not be able to schedule an appointment for whatever reason, can kind of come together in a group format and receive support and give support to others, which is also a really important part of the student growth process. The continuation of the I Will Listen campaign. This is a big partnership that we've kind of been conducting for the last several years with National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI of Maryland. So that will take place on October 4th through the 10th. And the I Will Listen campaign, if you all remember, students will have an opportunity to engage someone from the community who gives a presentation about their struggle with mental health concerns and more importantly, their resilience, their overcoming mental health issues. There'll also be opportunities for students to engage in some creative writing and to engage in an additional drop-in group as part of NAMI's offerings. Collaboration with academic advisement to support students adjusting to virtual learning and social distancing. So the Counseling Center is going to continue its partnership with academic advisement to address issues related to virtual learning. And so issues of motivation, issues of concentration, issues of structure, issues of focus. So having multiple windows open, or finding time to engage in a regular study pattern, a regular sleep pattern. Issues of these sorts of things are things that we'll discuss with academic advisement. So as we continue to discuss our plans for our virtual learning in the fall, we've also been focused on student support tools. So our website has a mental health screening instrument on the website, which offers a wide variety of screening issues regarding mental health. So as students kind of go through the screening, at the end, they'll be linked to a referral database, which will link students with us or with community partners that may be suited to address their particular issue that's been identified as part of the screening. We've also partnered with athletics to implement a common anxiety and depression screening to identify athletes early who may be struggling. Sometimes it's difficult to kind of identify what may be looked at as weakness, right? So being able to identify those students and support those students has been important for the Counseling Center. So we'll continue to do that with athletes using this screening instrument for anxiety and depression. Collaboration with residence life. So we all know the residence halls will operate in a low density environment. So we've been able to cooperate, to partner with the RAs, resident advisors in the residence halls, to really discuss self-care, right, and how we can promote that and how students can develop an individualized plan to care for themselves, and therefore refer that information to their residents through weekly conversations that they have with their residents, through programming that'll happen in the residence halls and a social distancing environment. Counseling Center communications, ongoing website updates with new additions of COVID-19 resources. The Counseling Center will continue to develop its robust list of resources regarding COVID-19, whether that be engagement, whether that be resiliency and the like, or whether that be real world kind of more practical concerns, whether that's food or unemployment concerns. Email blast to students, announcements and reminders of Counseling Center events and resources. So we'll continue to send out information to students to make sure that they know that they're not alone, they matter, they're important, so students will continue to be informed. On-campus hours of operation, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 5. So myself and Ms. Reynolds, the director of the Counseling Center, will be here on campus in office Monday through Thursday. Friday will be a virtual office hours. And during those times, on campus and off campus in a virtual world, we'll engage in telehealth. Telehealth will be the model that we'll use to provide services to students. Virtual, can you go back just one second? Well, okay. Well, I was going to mention our contact information. You see the email and telephone number below. So I want to wrap up with an important quote, which I think kind of underlines the work that we do here at the Counseling Center and going forward. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. The Counseling Center partnering with students, parents, faculty, and staff to do more. Thank you for your time. And I will refer the remainder of the time to my trusted colleague and partner in student support, Dr. Spry.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, and thank you, Dr. Lewis, for this opportunity to share on the Disability Support Services Program. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Fall 2020. On several areas in hopes that once you have received what we have to share, there'll be an even better understanding of what we do and why we do what we do. This presentation will include information on the law which governs our activities in servicing our students with disabilities. That would be the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the American Disabilities Act of 1990. We'll talk about the DSSP team, accommodations, and working with students with disabilities, including accommodations, that process, confidentiality, and documentation of disability. Next slide, please. So the Rehabilitation Act and the American with Disabilities Act state that no otherwise individual qualified with a disability in the United States shall be solely by reason of their disability be excluded from the participation in, be denied the benefits of, and this is very important, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving financial assistance, and that is federal financial assistance. Next slide, please. So with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, students with disabilities must be given an equal opportunity to participate in and benefit from all post-secondary education programs, as well as activities, and that includes coursework, courses of study, or any activities offered on the university campus. Next slide, please. So the American with Disabilities Act and under the ADA, a primary focus for our department, the DSSP, is with Title II. and that relates to public services. And so here we work to enhance equal access to those public services on the campus and programs for our students. Next slide, please. So the DSSP team, who does that consist of? So we have the faculty, the student, and the DSSP counselor or staff. Now the student has several responsibilities, and theirs include providing documentation of an appropriate or by an appropriate professional regarding their disability. And they have the same obligation as any student to meet and maintain the institution's academic and technical standards. Students are encouraged to be proactive, work with their advisors and instructors, and the students are responsible for self-disclosing and for registering for disability support services. So if the student wants to receive services, they must be the one to come in contact with the DSSP office and to personally self-disclose and share information. Next slide, please. So the instructor is responsible for providing the accommodations for the student's success. And we ask that the accommodation forms that we submit to the instructors be returned to us as promptly as possible, preferably upon receipt. We ask instructors also to make the students feel comfortable at the beginning of the semester by sharing with them that you're willing to speak with them confidentiality to discuss their accommodations. Instructors must also, as a systems requirement, include the CSU approved DSSP academic accommodations announcement in each course syllabi. We also ask that faculty encourage students to use all of the campus resources that has been shared by previous colleagues, such as the DSSP office, tutorial services, student support services, and academic resources. As the DSSP staff, excuse me, we are here to help students with disabilities learn and succeed on the same level as other students at the university, to assist the university in fulfilling the requirements by the law of the ADA, as well as the American with Disabilities Act, and also to support the provision of accommodations for students that make learning more accessible. We're also here to assist faculty, and we're willing to meet with faculty, to meet with your teams, to have special presentations to further answer any questions or concerns that you might have with respect to DSSP accommodations. In terms of confidentiality, next slide, please. Students' rights for confidentiality must be respected, and students should not be questioned regarding their disability. Students do not have to disclose their disability to anyone except the DSSP office. And a student's disability should not be, under any circumstances, ever discussed with others. Accommodations requested by the students are disability appropriate. They have been authorized by their physicians or treating specialists, and these records are maintained in secured files in the DSSP office. Next file, please. Next slide, I'm sorry. So there is a structured process for determining a student's eligibility for services, and verification of disability is of high priority. So the student must be in contact with their treating specialist, who must provide a comprehensive report on official letterhead documenting the disability. Now, that treating specialist or physician must be credentialed in the field in which the student's disability is. The credentials must include, we need the credentials, but we also need other information, contacting information, such as the phone number, email, fax number, etc., because there are occasions when we have to make contact with the treating specialist to verify certain information or to get additional information that's needed before setting up the student's accommodations. Next slide, please. So included in the documentation that we receive, just to make it clear that Everything that we do, all of the accommodations that we recommend or place on those accommodation letters for the students are vetted by their treating specialist. So that documentation received by their treating specialist must include a diagnostic statement identifying the student, disability, and the current diagnostic evaluation that was used. We need a description of the current functional impact of the disability in the educational environment, and recommendations for effective academic accommodations to equalize the students' educational opportunities at the post-secondary level. So we do receive input and information from the treating specialist with respect to what types of accommodations should be provided. So what are accommodations? An accommodation provides an adjustment or elimination of an obstacle to enable students with disabilities to participate in class on an equal basis, just as the other students. The ADA requires that the accommodations be reasonable, meaning that the student is expected to fulfill the academic requirements of the course, and the instructor is not required to alter these requirements. So what are reasonable accommodations? These are legally mandated and are intended to provide students with equal access. Accommodations give students with disabilities an opportunity to participate in all university academic programs and activities, plus be evaluated on the basis of their academic ability and not their disability. Now, it's very important to understand that reasonable accommodations do not alter these central components of the course or degree requirements, and do not cause any central burden or expense to the university. Students with disabilities are expected to meet the same standards as other students. So reasonable accommodations, again, do not lower academic standards or compromise the integrity of the academic program. Next slide, please. So some of the common accommodations that we have been providing over the years include separate room testing, quiet environment, and extended time. Next slide, please. The accommodation process, we want to make it clear in wrapping things up, is not a separate process for incoming students, transfer students, or new students. It's all the same. So the students must complete the same process. Next slide, please. The process includes completing the disability disclosure form. We have to have that completed in order to legally obtain information from the student. They must submit, of course, the appropriate documentation, and they must set up an appointment to meet with the disability services counselor in order to complete the intake process to apply for accommodations. Next slide, please. We advise students to connect with the instructor, and after the student receives their email with their accommodation letters, the faculty member will also receive the accommodation letters by email as we process through COVID-19. Once you receive the accommodation letters, we ask that you please send them back as soon as possible, and then contact the student to discuss the process of having the accommodations implemented. In closing, next slide, please. We ask that we all follow, of course, the guidelines. The DSSP office remotely during fall 2020 will be remote again. Staff is available Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 by Skype or Teams or phone, and virtual appointments are set up and scheduled with the students. Next slide, please. I want to give a special thanks to our two counselors, Tamika Ash and Siobhan Montgomery, and a special thank you to Dr. Lewis and the academic affairs team, as well as Dr. L and Dr. O'Brien for all of their support. Thank you so much. Have a safe and very successful fall 2020. We'll next hear from Dr. L, who will be sharing with us on information technology.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine, healthy, and doing great. following all the social distancing and keeping their family safe and themselves as well. So good morning. What an exciting start for a university day for fall 2020. I'll share with you, next slide please, I'll share with you information about some more stuff we're going to be doing this coming year and some stuff we have been doing. I'll also touch base on what IEA has been doing. So it's going to be IT, information technology, and social advancement as well. First thing we're going to talk about, we're going to quickly talk about the PC refresh. I'm going to talk about some of the stuff we're doing here regarding student experience, scholarships. That's how we keep our students being able to come back to campus. At the end of my presentation, I'll yield to Dr. Kerbim. She is the best to talk about student support and faculty staff development. Next slide, please. Let's start by PC refresh. This is year 4 for our cycle, and that's where we're going to actually refresh computers on campus. We start this fall, and that will actually campus-wide, faculty, staff, labs, and everybody else. Now, COVID-19 taught us something very important and helped us actually to be innovative, not just about how we do our business, but also where from we can do our business. And accordingly, after discussion in the cabinet, the approval of the cabinet and the president, we are going to extend the laptop options that we have been giving to the faculty for the last 15 years to staff as well, where the staff, if they decided based on their VP feedback, can actually, instead of getting a desktop station, they get a laptop station. And a laptop station is the laptop, screen, keyboard, mouse, and a docking station. So it can enable them to be mobile. Any time we decided to move completely online, there will be no glitches there. So, and again, I know question will come, what are we going to do with the old computers and laptops? We'll follow the same process we have followed before in selling those surplus in the same process we have done before. Next slide, please. Let me talk to you about the student engagement system, or what's known in the commercial world, the CRM. So let me talk a little bit about that. We have been doing this for some time, and we actually have done great work, as Dr. Jenkins have mentioned in the summer. So I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of what we have done. Next slide, please. Let's get back to why we did this. As we have discussed this before, clearly our students, based on the necessary surveys that they have shared with us, they don't feel the satisfaction level of our services is not as great as our peers in the same area. As you can see, for the first year, we're about 52% compared to the 81% of our peers. We are doing better for the seniors, and you can see the data for yourself. So we need actually to improve the student experience on campus, which actually results in other desirable outcomes, such as enrollment, graduation rates, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. So our goal by implementing a student engagement system is actually to reach 80% in our necessary surveys within 5 years. Things doesn't happen over 1 year or 1 week or 2 years. So that's the goal of what we are doing, is really get to 80% satisfaction by our students based on the experience they have with us within 5 years. Next slide, please. Now, a student engagement system, just to give you a synopsis of what happened, we started in December 2018, created a lot of focus groups, including the students, faculty, staff, enrollment management, with all facets of it, financial aid, admission registration, advising areas. We reviewed the processes, we looked at the personas and journeys, after which we procured a product from campus management called Campus Nexus Engage, and we started the implementation in fall 19. Next slide, please. Now, this is just give us a synopsis of what the student feedback, when we did the students groups, and you can see the students have told us clearly, communications, personalization. You need to improve the processes. You need guidance. They need support from us. So the message was clear from the students. That's what they want from us. Communications, more and more communications and guidance and support, and it should be personalized. As I mentioned before, it was very revealing that the students want us to know more about themselves, about their personal lives, their struggles, what they are doing, and how they are actually going on through their even lives outside of the university. So we keep in mind doing this. Next slide, please. That's the team, and you can see the whole campus is engaged in this team. You have, again, admission, registration, financial aid, advising, success centers, the students themselves, the bursar office, first year experience, IT, and faculty. All that actually is part of what we are doing and what we have been doing over the last year and some. Next slide, please. Now, I just gonna remind everybody, part of what we have done is creating personas, and we created 8 personas for students and 1 persona for the faculty. The personas looked into their goals, looked into their personalities, motivations, what their aspirations, biography, and we looked into all those personas, starting from freshmen, transfer students, and so on and so forth. Now, we talked about journeys before, but as part of the implementation, those journeys have been translated. I'm giving you here just an example, translated intelligently to journeys within our system, our new deployed system. The system is smart enough to know if the students transfer or graduate or undergraduate or freshman. It's smart enough to know that and put them in a journey that use different triggers to nudge them towards certain actions that we feel will actually improve their experience. And all that's done automated using artificial intelligence, done automated in the background. As you can see here, we even check, you send an email, is it opened or not? If it's open, do the following. If the email has a link, is it clicked or not? If not, maybe want to remind them after a certain period of time. So creating different nudges based on what the students have done, based on what we sent them, and all that is managed and done automatically. No human interference need to happen during this journey. We need to design it properly, and let it happen automatically. Next slide, please. Now, this is a big happening that took place starting in June 22nd. We focused on what we call the apply module, where we're going to look into the journey of the students from prospect coming to campus. Starting January 22nd, we start what we call going live. We start train the trainer, user acceptance testing, and going live. And this group of people, you can see there, came to Coppin starting June 22nd until we went live on July 16th. They were on campus doing the testing. And actually, as you can see again, in a COVID designed environment, monitoring physical distancing, wearing masks, and so on and so forth. It was quite an experience that we went through, and we went live on July 16 with the apply module, or the application part of the system. Next slide, please. Where we are and where we're going next. As you can see from this slide, on the left-hand side, we have apply, and that's completely done, either the application management, application review, or how we make decisions regarding, admission, and so on and so forth. The system actually is all built in the cloud. I'm going from bottom to up there. It's all in what we call the Nexus Cloud in Azure. After that, we are using and utilizing Microsoft technology. At the heart is Engage that manage the communication, and then we have different apps. One of the apps is Apply, and that's what we really launched in the Go Live. And part of that also is what we actually launched, Engage, the serve Apply, is the customer journeys, the emails, text messaging, forms, and so on and so forth. Next step is going to be Succeed, which actually work and communicate and engage the students as they enroll, which you can say is the retention part of the journey. And we are going to start this maybe the first week of September. We're going to start working on the Succeed part, which have success plans, success networks to do surveys, and early alerts, as you can see there. One very great thing we have done is called Occupation Insight. Occupation Insight is actually workforce analytics. I'm not going to dwell on it because there is a presentation by the College of Business that's going to come afterwards this today. It's actually College of Business has set up the best practices in the world of Occupation Insight and workforce analytics. I encourage everyone to listen to it, and that will be the blue book that we'll use as we roll this product campus-wide. Next slide, please. Okay, let me talk about scholarships. Scholarships is very important to help our students stay in college, stay at Coppin, and graduate. As you can see here, my team in Institutional Advancement have worked so hard in increasing the number of available scholarships to our students. We went from about $500,000 in 19 to about $700,000 this coming fiscal year, and that have happened because of all the hard work that happened by my team social advancement, as well as the help we have actually got from fundraising in athletics. Next slide, please. One thing worth mentioning here that's historical for Coppin is the Day of Giving we have done and focused on student emergency funds. At the time COVID hit, at the time we realized how much money may be needed for emergencies for the students. As mentioned before, he may lost their job. We actually focused the Day of Giving on emergency funds. In that Day of Giving, we raised more than $22,000, out of which $17,000 went to student emergency fund. Same time, we secured the largest gift by a living donor, $250,000 this last fiscal year. We actually recruited 6 new foundation merit scholarships, and I'd like to say, because Dr. Jenkins says, join me, he did. He started his foundation merit scholarship, so let's all join him, as he says, and add more to our scholarships endowment. Next slide, please. And as you can see, my team in social advancement raised more than we raised last year, exceeded our goal. We challenged ourselves using the best practices of the System Foundation. We're supposed to raise $1.3 million. We actually raised $1.52 million, exceeding our goal by 17%, while at the same time decreasing cost per dollar raised by 34%. It's great work, and I congratulate my team. I go back and say thanks for athletics for all their help. I'm moving too fast, Dr. Leonti, as much as I can. Next slide, please. Okay, now I leave the next slide to Dion, our capable Dr. Kirbim. She can talk about student support. Nobody can talk about technology support more than Dr. Kirbim. Please take it over.
Hello, thank you, Dr. Alagon, and good morning to everyone and happy new academic year. I just want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about our student technology support model. We have been very fortunate to come up with what we believe is a very robust and even unique model to help shepherd our students through the virtual environment. We always have our live help, which is available through the Eagle Tech Center, which is our naming convention now for our IT help desk. We call that the Eagle Tech Center, and they are available for phone, walk-in, appointment. We also have our Blackboard 24/7 support information, as well as a Panopto support line. All this information is available inside Blackboard courses. They're also available on the website. Of course, we have several self-support options that students can look and get the information on their own, and that's in their Blackboard courses, our Eagle Tech webpage, which is coppin.edu/EagleTech, where they're able to see tons of videos and documentation to help for certain things. I'm gonna jump over peer support for a moment and just talk about training. We will continue our training online. We will have selected few in-person, face-to-face options that must be registered by appointment only. There will not be any opportunities for walk-in. And then we have beefed up our social media campaign. If you look at our Instagram and Twitter pages, CSU Tech is our handle. We're constantly working with students through social media. And then, of course, we do communication through email, text message, digital signage, website blast, and social media. Now, jumping back to something that I'm very excited about is our peer support model. Many of you know in the past that we've had our techno squad that will go into classrooms and work with students, but as a virtual environment, that's not possible. While we do have videos, we decided as a team to think about a peer support model. And we have several students that will be peer mentoring students that feel they have some anxiety or concerns about being in a virtual environment. These peer mentors will be available through weekly virtual office hours. They will also have opportunities for one-on-one virtual appointments through telephone, through Skype, and different ways as well. We are sending an email out to students, so those who would like to be mentored would need to apply. And we have a capacity for approximately 70 to 80 students that we can mentor through a peer model. So if you if you feel that there are students that may benefit from this, encourage the students to check their email and to apply, and we will be assigning mentors. So we think this is a unique opportunity, and we are very excited to provide a great wraparound student support model. Next slide. And finally, I have to remember that Dr. Covington actually did a dynamic job talking about the different ways for faculty support, but we have the technology available to instruct, communicate, and evaluate. As we said, it's cool as ice, ICE, instruct, communicate, and evaluate for delivering your lectures, engaging students, assessment, preserving academic integrity. We're very excited about our latest additions, Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor, that will help to support integrity in the testing modes and, of course, streamlining processes. We will have a comprehensive series of workshops kicking off on actually this coming Friday and digging deeper through next week. So please check your emails, be on alert through our website for all the different information that we're going to have available for faculty support. So I'm excited to continue, as well as my team, to continue to work with you, provide support, and now we will continue on to hear from our Student Affairs Department.
Good morning. I am Isani, and I serve as the Director of Student Activities and Leadership. In our office, we also have Miss Cynthia Fitzgerald, who manages student health insurance and the Greek and Social Fellowship organizations, and Miss Carla Tyree, who manages our international students and student organizations. It's okay. We can go ahead to the next one. The way that we were used to doing things was pretty much on campus. But then, as everybody knows, like a scary movie, here came March 2020 and COVID-19, and it was pretty much everybody get out, go home. So we kind of had to switch things up in terms of the way that we manage things and the way that we present things to students. Next, please. So one of the first things that we did was to develop an Instagram page because, as you know, a lot of our students are very stuck on social media. Sometimes we can't get them to even look up and see our faces because they're so stuck in their phones. But some of the first things that we did were we did a Netflix party, and then following that, so it went a little bit too fast. I couldn't see the second thing. Oh no, it's going too fast. Can you go back one more? Okay, so we did our first Netflix party. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, Netflix party is where if you have a Netflix account, you can send a link out to other people who have the Netflix account and they can watch the same thing that you watch. Following that, we did a social distancing week. And we had about 5 different days of themes and activities where students participated, and they just hashtagged whatever the event was of that day, and we reposted their events or their photos rather. For our Student Government Association and class officers, unfortunately, obviously, we were not able to do an interest meeting on campus, so we did that on Instagram Live, and each person was able to come in, each current member was able to come in and give a little bit about their experience in the position, and I went over the eligibility requirements. Following that, or actually before that, we had another Netflix party, and we watched Cadillac Records for that one. After the information meeting that we had, we ended up turning in applications, and these were the individuals who submitted applications for elections. The flyers were sent out to the entire campus, and we did the elections the same way that we've been doing them the past couple of years, through forms. The ballots were sent out through Microsoft Forms. Next, please. Additionally, it was time to select our 2021 Royal Court. And for that, what we did is had each individual candidate submit up to 3-minute videos with their speeches and the reason they were vying for their position. Those videos were turned into a short movie. That movie was sent out to the entire student body, and the student body from watching those cast their ballots through forms as well. And forms is something that we've been using for our election processes. From those elections, we were able to gain a new Mr. and Miss Coppin, who are Dominic Russell and Deshanique Jones. We got our class kings and queens. Miss Senior is Miss Tori Jackson, Mr. Junior Montez Cooper, Miss Sophomore Kayleen Perez, and Mr. Sophomore Eric Good. So one of the additional activities that we attempted to have was a talent show on Instagram Live. And it's our students can be kind of tricky because they definitely showed up to watch the talent show, but that's all they did is show up to watch it. They did not show up to participate. So unfortunately, in that sense, we were not able to, we did not have actual talent. It ended up actually being myself and a colleague who ended up doing sort of a battle of music, and the students seemed to enjoy that. Additionally, we had a graduating senior essay contest where graduating seniors submitted essays, and 3 of them were awarded diploma frames and other alumni gifts. After that, we did a Life After Coppin Senior Series, which was on Instagram Live, where we had 4 recent alums within the past 2 years to come and discuss their experiences as Coppin students and what they learned in the experience that prepared them for life after Coppin. And I'm pretty sure that most of you, if not all of you, should recognize these faces. I don't know anyone on campus who does not know James Young IV from sometime during his tenure at Lincoln. But he was our first person, and then we had 3 other students. In May, we generally have a dinner to celebrate the students who are in student activities, our student leaders, but we were unable to do that. So we just sent out a flyer that recognized our graduating seniors, and each of them scheduled an appointment to come by the office and pick up their alumni gifts. Some of the summer conferences that we usually attend are the NASAP Student Leadership Institute and the Leadership for Queens and Kings Connection, which are for our student government, SAPB, as well as our Royal Court. Unfortunately, we were not able to attend those this year, but some other things, next slide please, some things that we were able to participate in, some of the individuals were Officer Roles and Responsibilities by Dave Kelly, also Best Practices in Student Leadership by Dave Kelly. Another conference that was held this summer was the Call to the Crown Leadership Summit, which was actually for all kinds of student leaders. It was just titled A Call to the Crown. And I had the opportunity to actually be one of the presenters for that conference. And then we also had a Student Leadership Training 101, which was conducted by Orlando Mitchell, who is the Director of New Student Orientation at Winston-Salem State University. Next slide, please. So while our students didn't get a chance to go to every single place that they would have usually gone to, they did have a chance to participate in some things. What we have coming up most, which will be the soonest, would be Welcome Week 2020, which, as we all know, is a whole new world for all of us. So during that week, we will have things like Meet SGA and Open Mic Talent Show. We will also have Meet SAPB and a Netflix party. Following that, we will have a Meet the Royal Court, a scavenger hunt, and a trivia night. All of those activities will be virtual, whether they be just online or whether there are students who are tuning into some of our lives. Following that, we'll have the Residence Life Movie Night, which will be in the hall. We'll also have our Clubs and Orgs Day, which will be virtual. Residence Life Bring Your Own Shirt Tie-Dye, and we will celebrate Coppin Pride National College Colors Day. Next, please. Fall 2020 virtual student engagement, how we plan to engage with our students are pretty much some of the ways that we've been doing: Skype, Instagram Live, Teams, Kahoot, email. They can schedule appointments to come by, and a few other things as well. Next. I think next is it. And that's the end. Thank you so much. I think I made it.
Good afternoon. We are here today to present a program, Occupation Insight. The College of Business will be piloting this program this fall semester. What is Occupation Insight? Next slide, please. During the past several months, the College of Business has been working with our Information Technology Division and Microsoft in the design and development of a new platform for the College of Business called Occupation Insight. This platform, designed specifically for the degree programs in our College of Business, provide essential and current labor market information directly to our students and faculty. In particular, it provides information on career options and job titles for each degree program, current salary and salary ranges, employment outlook, 10-year growth projection for the career options, distribution of job opportunities by geographical areas, and skills required by the marketplace for each career option. At this time, I would like to ask Dr. Anuru to provide specific information on how we integrate occupation insight into our curricula.
Good morning, everybody. The College of Business faculty is tasked to identifying the top skills that employers are looking for in students with undergraduate business degrees. So during the summer, starting from June through July, we meet every Monday. And we identified touchpoint courses. These are the courses, we call them touchpoint in the sense that all our College of Business students must take these courses. Starting from freshman year, we have Econ 103. Freshman seminar, MISI 150. And then go to sophomore year, we identify Econ 211, Econ 201, and then junior year, we identified Management 305. And then for the senior year, we identified our capstone course, which is 495. Please go to the next slide. Now, what we did was to come up with or develop questions. The work group developed 4 questions. We identified 4 modules, and then we developed 4 questions, or 1 question for each module in that case. And these questions, they are very well, they are progressive in the sense that for year 1, the question is not as difficult as year 2. And then year 2 is not as difficult as year 3. So these questions, the level of difficulty increases as students get closer to graduation. I will not go over all these slides, but I just want to give you an idea. In level 1, what we asked, module 1, we asked students to basically identify 3 careers that they are interested in. Please go to the next slide. And then in module 2, we asked them to compare and contrast the 3 careers that they identified in module 1. Please go to the next module. And then when they get to junior year, which is the 3rd year, now we ask them to prepare a resume. Now they're getting ready to leave us, so they have to now know what their careers or their career objectives are. They have to identify a career at this point. So we are going to ask them to prepare a resume. We ask them to prepare, look for skills that are necessary for those careers that they have identified or they have chosen. And then we ask them to prepare a cover letter also. And most important thing at this stage is the students are going to conduct what we call a gap analysis. And now gap analysis, they have to know the skills that they've already acquired up to this point and what skills that are lacking. Once they identify the gap or the skills that they need now, they can take those courses that will enable them to acquire the necessary courses for their identified careers. And we also ask them to create a LinkedIn account. Now they're ready to go look for jobs. So they have to create LinkedIn accounts, and then College Central account they have to establish also. And then we ask them how many internships have they applied for, and then how many graduate schools have they applied to. So all these we want to know at this point. That's the junior year. Please go to the next slide. Then now, once we get to the capstone, the senior year, now we're asking them to draft a brief summary of their 5-year plan, or what they intend to achieve when they leave a 5 years from the time they graduate. And then we are going to ask them to submit a portfolio of all the Occupational Insight assignments which they have completed. And the assignments from year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, we are expecting them to have a portfolio where they're going to deposit all the assignments. So we're working with IT to make that happen. There will be a portfolio for each student to deposit their assignments, so that when they get to the final year now, they can submit it to faculty for grading. And then the last point here, we're going to ask our students, we usually have an exit survey. We're going to ask them to complete a survey on their experience with OI, whether OI helped them in choosing a career in their fields or not, whether what improvements do we need. All right, now we now hand it over to Dr. Mushang, who will now walk us through the mapping, what we did, how we identified the courses, and then map the skills into our courses. Dr. Mushang.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nuru. So in addition to the career dashboard, there's also a skills dashboard that highlights the skills that are aligned to the various occupations in Occupation Insight. So faculty were tasked to list about 10 to 15 top skills in their respective degree programs. So the current slide kind of shows an example of such a list. And this is what we call a skills workbook. So each faculty was supposed to go into Occupational Insight and look at the top skills that were recommended by, or that were sought by the employers, and list that for that program. So if we go to the next slide, and I do apologize, the slide is kind of small to fit into the slide. But if you go to the next slide, you look at the skills mapping. So what we did now, we took the list of these courses, of those skills that were listed in the program. For example, you saw earlier on was from the marketing program, and we put that in the skills workbook. And what we're doing now is we're mapping it. After completing the skills workbook, faculty were asked to complete an assessment map in which they mapped the skills they identified in the original workbook into now the different courses in the program. We want to see how all the skills are, if all the skills are covered in our program. So this is actually what we're using to sort of look at if our programs are covering those skills that students need in order for them to be career ready. So this is an example of the marketing program where you can see all the skills that were listed by the faculty in that area. And you can look at the courses inside that program, and the X just marks what skills being covered in which course. And this was a way to sort of afford the degree programs the opportunity to have continual improvement in their curriculum and get their students career ready. And I'll hand it off to Dr. Gregory.
You're on mute, Dr. Gregory.
We had to decide how to use Occupation Insight in the College of Business. So our implementation strategy involves shifting from the traditional business school model in which students enroll in internship class, usually about the junior year, and they begin career preparation maybe the last 2 or 3 semesters in the program. We're introducing our Occupation Insight model in which the students begin exploring and mapping out their career pathways the very first semester they enroll in the College of Business. Instead of making Occupation Insight a supplement to our student support services or career services, we decided to make Occupation Insight an integral part of our curriculum. In other words, we decided to embed Occupation Insight into the business curriculum for all business degree programs. So every business student, every business major will have at least 6 or 7 key touch points with meaningful Occupation Insight experiences from the time they enter the College of Business until they graduate. So when they complete the senior year, they would have mapped out their career pathways, and they will have the requisite knowledge and skills required to compete effectively in the workplace. So what my colleagues just demonstrated was how we have embedded Occupation Insight into our curriculum. We've made it an integral part of what we do and what the students do. And it's not a supplement that the students will have an opportunity or an option to do or not do. Because we believe that connecting the students with the degree program and helping them see the career pathways that it would help with student engagement, it would help with program improvement, it would clearly help with our accreditation and our student placement, internships, and full-time placement. So we're excited about this program because it's giving us an opportunity to do something new and innovative. It's giving us an opportunity to engage our students at a different level. And so although Dr. Anuru and Dr. Minchung and I were the leaders who worked with ITD and Microsoft on the design of the platform and in shaping the implementation plan, it was the faculty members in the College of Business who worked together with us throughout the summer to identify relevant career options and required skills, to map the skills to all the degree program and courses, and to complete the workbook assignments so that we could be prepared to pilot this program this fall semester. So Occupation Insight is the College of Business opportunity to prepare the students for their career choices, to map out their career journeys the day they start in the program. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, colleagues. That was amazing. That was very detailed. And while we do
Dr. Lewis, you're muted.
I did it to myself. Thank you so much, colleagues, for your presentations. Thank you for those details. I know we're running short in time. We have several questions that I promise you I will make sure you get answers to. Some questions transcends just the topic, and so we will need to make sure that those responses are sent out to the entire campus. Every year, we make sure that we welcome the new Eagles to our Eagle Nation. And so we have a brief PowerPoint that we're going to present, after which Dr. Jenkins will make closing remarks. I thank you for participating in our first virtual University Day. You are amazing. Cue that PowerPoint. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Listen, thank you, Provost. Thank you, campus. What a great day. Just very impressive, very impressive. Before I close out, let me make sure that I ask everyone to complete the evaluation. The link is in the announcement. All right. Did I do that okay, Provost? I'm good. All right. You know, let me again thank everyone who played a role in making today happen. The suggestions, the presentation, the information that was shared today, it puts all of us in a much stronger position. And that is important. And sharing information and being transparent and creating more opportunities for us to communicate is going to be really the cornerstone of our success moving forward. But I want to thank everyone for all you do. Our faculty, our staff, thank you for everything that you do for Coppin, everything that you have done, and everything that I know that you will continue to do. I want to leave you with a couple of points, and then I'm going to get out of here. Today, we stand at the threshold of what is next for Coppin. As I said earlier, I want all of us to approach this fall with the mindset that no one is more dedicated than you. And I also want you to challenge yourself and your colleagues that at the end of the day, we ask ourselves, did we do everything we could to make Coppin a better university today? Where we are going, it's going to require one university. Where we are going, it is going to require one university. What our students seek from us will demand a Coppin that is reimagined and united. Let us be the example that we want our students to model. Let us show them how professionals, how scholars operate. See, that is an important part of their holistic development. And as I said earlier, from this day forth, I want us to do better, be better, and want better for Coppin. We are Coppin. It is not the brick and mortars. It's not our beautiful campus. It's you, the faculty, the staff, our students. We are Coppin. We are the very essence and the strength of this institution. And so I don't want any of us to ever lose sight of that, because we are resilient. We are compassionate, and we know what we do and for whom we do it. So, as I've said earlier, there are great days ahead. The future is ours to shape. Let's start this semester off great. Let's soar and let the transformation begin. Thank you, and may you have a wonderful day. God bless you, and God bless Coppin.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, Provost, I'm gonna kick it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Thank you, my Coppin community. You know, my heart is all for Coppin, and together we're going to make this university continue on its upward trajectory. Have a safe semester. Have a great semester. I'll see that your questions get answered, and don't forget to complete that evaluation. Take care. Go Eagles.